let's get going. And it is 6:03 or 6:05, depending on what clock I'm looking at. Let's call this City Council work session to order. Roll call, please.
Denver. Councilmember Lorenzo. Here. Councilmember Villarreal.
Here.
Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Grant. Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Here.
Mayor Levy.
And I was just gonna say, Councilmember Hill indicated he was not going to be here, but if you recall in the last meeting, he said he would provide us his comments. And so I do have those, and when we get to the discussion on the Regional Housing Authority, I'll just read his comment, if that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, now we have the optional Pledge of Allegiance or moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have the approval of the agenda. I do think the mayor sent out the email that the agenda was updated with a discussion of the police department. I just got that message, but I didn't get an updated agenda. So are there any other changes that people want to make to it?
One thing, Mayor Pro Tem Green, we wanted to talk about, the mayor has been out of the office all day today, so he wasn't able to update that budget work session agenda, but we looked at the regular city council meeting agenda for November 8th. So remember, election day is the 7th, so we moved it to Wednesday, the 8th. That meeting is very, very light. So what we are proposing is to actually have more time on the 8th to discuss the police department. And so to move that discussion to the 8th rather than the 14th, because the 14th is already a little busy. So that would be the only update I have on the work session schedule. We would like to find out if that is agreeable to everybody. We have invited Sheriff Speckman to attend that meeting, and he can make it on the 8th as well. And so we'd like to talk about police department budget and also discussion sort of on the path forward and some options for that, if that's okay.
Well, I've got one question. Will there be any briefing materials or additional meetings or anything in advance of November 8th prior to that discussion? Because I'm not really sure what the various options are moving forward. I'd like to do some study.
Yes, so I will put, I have been talking with the police department itself and talked with Chief Chavez before he left. And I've had one meeting with Sheriff Speckman, and we have another meeting scheduled for Friday. So what I'd like to try and do is present, I can do that in the packet materials. We have basically 3 very different options, and sort of what I'd like to do is flesh out some of the positives and negatives of those and be able to present those with a little more detail.
Could I request that we add a wee bit on our agenda tonight just to bring council up to date on what is happening right now? Like it's another week before November 8th. So wait, it's 2 weeks before November 8th. So I would just like just a little bit of time, maybe a quick report from you about what's the anticipated function between now and then.
And you sure, just let me know when you think that's appropriate on the agenda for tonight.
Well, since we have people waiting in the audience, can we tack it on to the end? I mean, not that they wouldn't be interested. I just think they're here for another reason.
So move 10 to 13 as a discussion.
Yeah, that sounds fine. So with that minor amendment, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Gwendolyn Ladd moves to approve the modified agenda.
Thomas seconds.
Okay. Apparently on the agenda, we do have, we're skipping number 5, which just doesn't exist, and moving right on to number 6. Public comments. on items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on any items not on the agenda? If so, please raise your hand.
Dana,
Tell us
did you
your
want to take a vote on the agenda?
Yeah, I actually would.
Okay.
That was number 5. It's just not on there, right? All right, all in favor of the
Aye.
modified agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comments. Is there anyone in the room there who would like to comment on items not on the agenda?
We got one.
I
yes.
do, please. Should I stand up?
Please introduce, I cannot see you on the screen. Please introduce yourself and tell us where you
My
live.
name is Cliff Mortensen, and I've been in Leadville 50 years. And I have a comment that I'd like to make. Mayor Levy wasn't here because he had a meeting today. And I talked to Mayor Levy about creating jobs in Leadville. And he said that he was gonna go talk to Senator Bennett today in Avon about creating jobs in Leadville, and I think that this is a major deal here. Cause I think that when the jobs come, then the housing will come too, you know? We gotta have the jobs out here, you know, we've had several opportunities in Leadville to make, like the Budweiser plant that they were gonna put here, they didn't put here, and that would have created jobs. And, you know, instead of creating a lot of other races and subdivisions, we need to create jobs in Leadville. You know, and I have some very good ideas, and Mayor Levy went to discuss that with the senator today about putting a museum at Camp Hale for the Army and bringing destination people to Leadville. And this would create a lot of jobs in Leadville if they did something like that. Possibly opened up the railroad, which some seem to believe it's impossible. But if the right people were involved and they talked to the right people, it could happen and everybody could benefit here. Not just the people on the upper end, but there's a lot of people in Leadville that are at risk right now of not being able to live here anymore. And I took a look at all the candidates and I recommended in the paper that people should vote for the most qualified person. And I looked through all the qualifications of all these people in my letter in the paper, and I noticed that a lady named Dana Green is the most qualified person because I think she cares about everybody the most. Not just the people that are on the top, but the people on the bottom. And I do believe that you will honor your promises if you're elected mayor. So I'm recommending to the paper they're publishing it that you are elected mayor. I hope everybody votes for you, Dana. And I've just spoken my piece, you know, I think that you'll do a really good job. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be to rain on your, or come in on you, you know, to spoil your parade or anything, you know, but I do care about Leadville and the citizens here, and I really thank you for what you're already doing with short-term or with affordable housing, and you know, you put a limit on that. I really appreciate that, and I hope you continue. And I really think you're going to be the mayor, because I'm gonna until the 2 weeks is up, I'm gonna tell everybody to vote for me. Thank you very much, Dana.
Thank you, Mr. Mortensen.
You're welcome.
Are there any other public comments for items not on the agenda? Okay. Then moving on to item number 7, Colorado Trust Fund, Parks and Museums. Let me pull up our budget.
So this, if you are looking for it, it's on the most recent version. It is page 14. And it actually really truly, it starts at the very bottom of page 13 is the header. It says CTF fund, it's Conservation Trust Fund. It's actually, I think, the Conservation Trust Fund, not Colorado Trust Fund, but this is our portion.
Yes, that's not the same.
Oh, okay. Okay. It is, if you are looking as, it is 05-300. Hold on a second, it would be towards the end, hold on a second.
Okay, it's on page 10.
10, yeah.
That's page 10.
Okay, you apparently have a little. Oh, perfect, okay. So I will switch over to that version rather than my version. So this is money that we received from the Get Outdoors Colorado, which is essentially the lottery money. It is based upon our population. And so it is not something that we can, apply for more of or try and, get more of. It's based upon population. And so you can see that we just have budgeted pretty much based upon the last 3-year actuals. There are limitations on what we can spend this money on. So it is intended for what is called public space. And so what we use this money for in large part is, you will hear from the Tabor Opera House. That is why we're doing the Conservation Trust Fund money right before the Tabor Opera House, but it is in part used for the Tabor Opera House. We've used it for labor for our parks and park space. Basically, I would say recreation space, but we have mainly park space. And so we were using that for our maintenance workers, and we can use some of that money for repair and, lights or security cameras or those types of things. But there are limitations, and I can pull up an explanation about that, but that is the Conservation Trust Fund Parks and Museums revenue. So it's not actually a budget presentation for expense. It's a presentation on our revenue.
Okay.
So if there's any questions?
Since we went over this year's budget, why are we not increasing it for next year?
So
Under maintenance.
we went over it this year in part, I think, because we had wanted to help fund a portion of the electrical panel for the Tabor Opera House. And so that was a one-time expense. And so if I'm stepping on the next presentation, but there were a couple of expenses that we thought might push us a little over the edge, but they were
Okay.
one-time expenses.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Guys, tell me if I type like this, can you hear that? And does it bother you?
No,
Okay.
no, you're
Great.
fine.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments on CTF funding,
So,
or can we move on to Tabor Opera House?
it's a quick question. For the maintenance on Tabor Home Museum, a house with the eye. You don't think it's gonna be more than $5,000? I mean, are they in good shape? And
Well, we can, so it's a finite pot of money, so we can decide which
Oh, okay.
part to apportion.
Okay,
It could be more than that, and then we would just have to pay it out of the general fund.
okay.
So what we'll try and do is obviously maximize this money every year and make sure we spend it. So I know that the house with the eye, we upgraded the windows this past year, and we upgraded, I think, the smoke detectors. So again, one-time expenses. You never know, something
Right.
could go. But I think this was the first full year that we owned the house with the eye. And so we were trying to knock a few things out. I'm not aware that it has other imminent needs right now, but I'm sure we could spend money on it.
So is this based off census data?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions or comments on CTF expenditures? All right. Shall we move on to a Tabor Opera House presentation and request?
Thank you so much, Council. Would you like us to just sit here and chat? Can you see us, Dana, or?
Why don't you come up to the table?
Okay.
I can hear you and I recognize your voice, so.
I just got a text message from Councilmember Grant. Actually, I got it before the meeting started. She said she's running late. She's aiming for 6:30 or 7 PM. And she just wanted me to let everyone know she's delayed.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Day, take it away.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you all again. Some of you we saw a couple weeks ago at the goal setting budget session. Thank you. I'm joined with board members Gillette Kern and Amy Tate, both on our board of directors. We are an 11-member board strong, taking care of the Tabor for you. I'm your full-time executive director. We also have Tammy Tabor, our building maintenance and tour guide manager, and then seasonal docents through the season. We have really enjoyed being your partner to rehabilitate and bring back the Tabor Opera House. I think it's starting to look so fantastic. Everyone thinks, wow, we've done the work and we are there. And we have done the work and we are far from being there, but we are making concerted efforts to ensure that we're taking care of it as best as we can. Tomorrow, we'll be giving a presentation to the Department of Local Affairs to match our already awarded State Historic Fund grant to finalize our rehab efforts on the exterior of the building. So we've been saying that that is really the raincoat of the building. And once that's complete, we'll be in pretty good shape from more water deterioration coming into the building, with the caveat that the roof is at its end of life. We have had roofing contractors there this week doing some repairs from the stage swing arm system we had to install this season to do the north wall. Small repairs. They did review it earlier in the season for us and said, with these repairs, we should be able to get another 5 to 10 years out of the roof. I want to really flag that for you all, because that roof is probably going to be about $1 million, and that will finalize the exterior of the building. However, we can't do the roof of the building until we do more critical pieces of the interior of the building, because the warranties will go away. So it's kind of one of these things where it's determining what is the biggest threat, what do we do next? And so as a board, we do lots of deep diving and detailed planning and projections. So this year we finished a 5-year business plan with some items we can implement now. And we've started to do that this year, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we are doing a 3-year refresh strategic plan for the board this coming weekend, Friday and Saturday. That's an internal planning document for 3 years of just goals and ways we can move forward as a board. With the DOLA grant that I believe we're gonna get awarded and approved, we will mobilize to kind of finish that exterior project of the work next season. We will need to work with you all to administer that contracting bid process like we've done the last 2 phases of the project, because we have to ensure we're meeting crossing all of the T's and dotting all the I's in accordance with DOLA and the funding. So for those council members that are aware, we really leverage the city's umbrella and arm for funding when we can under the city's leadership, and we leverage under the Tabor's arm when we can. And so how that has worked is we've really taken your investment to basically accrue $5 million since the city purchased the building to reinvest back into the building. And part of that strategy is this really complicated pass-through of the historic tax credits, because you all are not eligible to receive the historic tax credits, but the foundation is. So we bill the city pays us, we pay the contractors, and then it all gets tallied up into historic tax credits that we then sell for 90 cents on the dollar, that goes right back into the building to do the project as match. And importantly, we have started an endowment fund so that future generations of Leadville are not stuck in the same situation that we are right now. And currently that little kind of endowment, which is not technically an endowment yet, but we're working towards that goal line, but it is earning 4.5 to 5.5% in interest in a money market account. So we're leveraging every single penny that we possibly can to ensure that we're floating as much of the grant dollars with your investment that you do each year. And we also want to be operational and open to the public and to the community and to other people that get inspired to get behind what we do, because another really important arm of our fundraising efforts has to come from individual donors. This year, we're on track to beat our biggest fundraising goal line ever. We're hoping for at least $200,000. We put a goal of $350,000 out there to us this year with the help of a detailed, dedicated fundraising committee. And usually we raise around $80,000 to $90,000 each year in individual donations. Right now, we're sitting at $125,000 in individual donations year to date. But $70,000 of that is this challenge match from two various generous families in the Lake County that want to remain anonymous, that are kind of putting that out there and dangling the carrot as a challenge match through year end. And they gave that to us just after our Savor the Tabor fundraiser, which was in May of this year. So a quick snapshot of the numbers, where your money and your generous partnership is going. We are a lean, mean team of myself as the only full-time employee, Tammy Tabor, as I talked about, and our seasonal docents, and then our backbone of volunteers. We're in over nearly 1,000 hours of volunteer hours so far this year. We had just wrapped our season on October 14th with the Stories We're Telling Film Festival, which kind of is this stretch goal, working with Adam and the Visit Leadville Twin Lakes to get visitors to come on the more mud season. And we got a lot of press, including news at Channel 7 and Channel 5 in Denver, a lot of articles that were picked up. And also this year we were in National Geographic print magazine, as well as online magazine, just promoting the Tabor and Leadville and what we are as a community. Most of the funding that you give us, 30,000 of that goes into kind of a bare bones seasonal cost. The Stories We're Telling event, for instance, was $20,000. I know you paid separately to Adam and he fundraised with other sponsors to get that happen. But like a typical programming event can range anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 or sometimes $20,000, like the Stories We're Telling Film Festival. And we also leverage your kind of money that you give us with individual corporate donors and businesses. This year, we raised $9,000 to match your $30,000 to give us the dollars we needed to run our events. We also go after little grantors, whether it's the Lake County Community Fund, Chaffey County Community Fund, Summit Foundation, Vail Valley Partnership, Vail Valley Cares, which is the thrifty stores. And all those little dollars of funding allow us to also give out vouchers. So important to us is ensuring everyone has access to the Tabor and don't have, limitations. So we embed at least 3 free events that we offer to the community. This year it was the Army 101st Concert Band, as well as the Tabor Youth Collective free performance. And then we have the Boom Days Talent Show. And then we also distribute those vouchers with our partners at Get Outdoors Leadville, at St. George's. We sit down with folks, meet them where they're at, and distribute vouchers. We've also talked about potentially having a library card kind of pass and figuring out if people could check it out to then come to an event. So we're kind of still thinking through those strategies. But at the end of the day, really the events themselves break a little above even. And then even that, we then break apart in our partnership with Lyric Theater of Leadville. Where we're at as an organization right now, we can't hire a full-time artistic director, but we have partnered with Lyric Theater of Leadville, which is a separate nonprofit entity in Lake County. Scott Carroll, our high school principal, is that artistic director and their board. And so they gave us all their volunteer hours, helped to really select and solicit and finalize the contracts with our performers this season. And then they are getting 50% of our ticket sales. That's our agreement with them after we meet some basic costs. So those are all a little nuanced, and in your packet, there's some breakout information. We also host community events for big events that are important to our community and help fundraise for other entities like the Main Street program with their annual auction every year. I was waiting to hear from Nancy, hadn't heard where they're at officially at their fundraiser earlier this year, but I know last year they raised $13,000 for their program that one evening, being at the Tabor Opera House. So, it's definitely a large chunk of money, and we understand that. Our eyes on the prize is really to continue to grow our capacity as a foundation and board and look for outside funding sources to really fill things and wean ourselves off of a partnership with the city of Leadville. And we're just not really there yet. What we are hoping to do is hire a development director in 2024 of some iteration and or have a consultant bucket of money for that, which we are gonna really dive into deeper this coming weekend at our strategic plan. But that's really where we need to focus in bringing outside money into Leadville Lake County, into other pools of funding that we haven't yet tapped into. Also, we are funded by Freeport-McMoRan for a capital feasibility study, which is really going to be important, like the third leg of the stool, as I say, that business plan, our strategic plan, and that capital campaign feasibility study will really chart the way for the next 5 years as we figure out where we're going to get the 25+ million for the interior of the project. Unfortunately, like the pool or the Justice Center conversation, each year that we prolong bringing in that investment, it just continues to increase those costs. The work that we're planning to do next summer with hopefully the DOLA match is another $1.1 million to do that project. The top upper cornice, which is nearly falling off of the building, has a lot of water and is very unsafe for pedestrians passing by. That in and of itself is $700,000. They have to take it down. They have to then replicate pieces and then place it onto the building. It's very complicated. And we have a real strict scrutiny of review with our partners at the State Historic Fund and with our easement through Colorado Historical Foundation, which the city is a part of those arrangements and agreements. And really, I just want to say, I think in general, when you look at the numbers, what we're getting and leveraging with your matches currently, and as we continue down this path of really strategic planning pieces and put them in place and implement them, I think we're going to see those dollars come in and really finish this building. It'd be really exciting if we could have it all done by our 150th birthday, which would be November of 2029. But you know, that also is a complicated several years away, so we will see. And in general, I kind of just wanted to open it up for any comments, questions that you have with our supporting materials that we've given to you the last couple of weeks, and really just open it up to answer those questions.
I've got a couple of questions. So 2024, you plan to finish up the exterior with the exception of the roof, which we hope won't last for another 5 years. So there will be programming in 2024.
There absolutely will be programming in 2024.
But then as we go into 2025 and 2026, with work happening on the interior, are you going to be able to do programming or not?
So that is a great question. So part of our business plan that we finished and paid for with outside funding indicated that when we eventually have the money to close and do the interior rehab, we don't want to lose our momentum and our brand and our face outside of the community. And so we've started to do what we call kind of the Tabor Outdoors concept by partnering with other strategic entities and programming models. So this year we did 3 events across the street at the old church in partnership with the Leadville Lake County Civic Center Association under a very generous business owner, Erin Watkins of Blue Earth. She was kind of sourcing the different events to happen. We also had the Rocky Mountain PBS showing of the Lost Irish of Leadville to promote the upcoming unveiling of the Irish Memorial. And that was in April. So those were very successful and also helped other nonprofits because we didn't want it to just be about the Tabor. So the first event was in February with Seth Walker, and that was a benefit to St. George Mobile Food Clinic, as well as the Tabor. We did the beverage sales through a liquor license that we obtained through you all. And then we had that Lost Irish showing in April, which really wasn't a fundraiser, but an opportunity for us to broadcast out our season subscriptions and what was coming up with the season. And then we closed out on September 1st with Pat Byrne across the street. Again, that was a benefit, and that benefited Cloud City Wheelers. And again, the Tabor with our beverage sales. So those are kind of just small inklings of what we'll eventually get to do. In addition, that strategy of working with Lyric Theater of Leadville, that is our arts and culture base, they're going to reinvest our split of the ticket sales to do other theatrical and artistic performances in the community. And so when we get to that eventual place, we might be doing Tabor at the park over at Ice Palace Park, or we might be doing more events at, you know, across the street, the old church that has 160 seats, or maybe even with the school and their auditorium, which I believe seats somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 plus seats.
So just thinking about budgets moving forward, it sounds like the partnership with the city is to help with programming. You also mentioned that in 2024, you hope to hire a development director. So just looking forward, do you have any sense for how long you'll continue to seek this programming partnership with the city?
Well, the programming that we leverage from the city's contribution is $30,000. So out of the 150, we use $30,000 for the programming arm and match that with the corporate donors and other funders. We are always looking for any grant opportunities that we can. We successfully received a grant this year and for next year from the Colorado Creative Industries, which is just, it's dependent upon our budget and our size. And so it's capped at $8,000, but that helps offset. Also, we did submit an application to the National Endowment of Arts for programming. We will not hear about that until April of next year and be able to utilize those dollars for programming in the following programming season and might make adjustments depending on where we're at with the interior project.
So April of 24 for programming 24 or programming 25?
Programming 25.
Oh gosh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mayor?
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
I was looking at your events. This is a really, really interesting breakdown.
It is an interesting breakdown. The biggest event by far was the Irish Review. We broke records there. And then the stories worth telling. There is definitely, we anecdotally are seeing a lot more locals come out in October, which I think is right. I think people are avoiding the downtown experience for other obvious reasons in the summertime. But, you know, we know that right now it's really kind of marketing. It's building the Tabor audience, friends of the Tabor, people that get to experience a live show there and feel inspired to become one of our individual donors.
And you split up the season sales between 5 events, is that my understanding?
The city's contribution between the 5 events and 3 free events.
Well, no, I was thinking of your sales of season tickets.
Oh, our sales of our season tickets, that was for 6 events total. It included the free events as well as one of the nights of the local musical and comedy, Broadway, Hazel Miller, the Army Band, and wrapped with the Vail Valley Band and cowboy poet Jake Riley.
There is the roof gonna be that expensive because of that atrium on the top. Now we required to keep that as part of the historic preservation.
It's actually a roof hatch. They've just installed a new temporary but more robust roof hatch, like temporary as in it will last at least 10 to 20 years. So there isn't an atrium like there is on Tabor Grand.
Oh, okay.
It is a sloping roof membrane. I think it's just the way that it pitches and kind of, the mayor could probably tell more because he's spent more time on there putting up the flag, but it slopes down into the corners and is pretty slick surface. And that was installed,
One of the other way.
no, and that was installed in the late 90s, early 2000s under the private ownership of Evelyn Berman Boyens.
So how do you sleep at night when you're thinking, I've got to raise millions of dollars?
That was my favorite question from all of the students at the career fair when they said, what is the biggest challenge that you face in your role? And I said, raising $20 to $25 million. I think it's just exposure. It's people becoming aware of the project. We were featured just several years ago by the New York Times for our historic scenery, which is a whole separate nuance of the conversation and something we also are really trying to ensure we're being good stewards of. We really were hoping we would leverage more donations that way. And we need that development director that can really focus efforts on the East Coast and outside areas, people that have a passion for the arts, have a passion for historic preservation and want to be inspired to give to our program. We also, this year, I'm trying something new. for end of season to leverage and match that $70 challenge match. Colorado Grand, which is that classic historic car show that comes through, they granted us $4,000 this year, which was awesome. And they're giving us another $7,000, two of which we are utilizing right now with our media partners at the Herald Democrat, O'Rourke Media. They have new digital direct marketing and they do what's called geofencing. And so we are running a 2-month-long, $2,000, it's very expensive, but we're trying to specifically target to our more affluent zip codes and areas with our program, our project. And this year we renewed a 5-year OEDIT. So that's at the State of Colorado Economic Development Technology, not quite sure all the acronym there, but OEDIT, for a additional 25% state of Colorado tax credit to anyone that gives $250 or more in a calendar year, up to $750,000 of tax credits. So basically we have 5 years to raise $750,000 in eligible tax credits, so $250 or more per individual donation. And those individuals will receive an additional 25% state of Colorado tax credit on their individual taxes.
So is the table part of Colorado Gives Day?
We are absolutely part of Colorado Gives Day. We are a large champion and we'll be here on November 9th with John to do the proclamation and have a little kickoff party.
We will actually do the proclamation at city council on.
The 8th, the night before.
Yes, next week. 2
Next
weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay.
It's daunting, but we're doing great work and we're taking care of something that was in critical risk of being lost. We still are considered a national treasure, of course, but also a Colorado endangered place. But we are making serious headway to ensure that, you know, once that raincoat's on, we can all sleep a little easier, that we're doing the good work and then really start to figure out how to raise the fun stuff. Elevators and bathrooms.
So just wanted to confirm and cross-check one thing. So your presentation, first page, it says it's $150,000 request from the city, correct?
Correct.
With 25,000 from the Conservation Trust Fund, correct?
That was something that
What, well,
talked about last year, and thanks for bringing that up, Lori, because we did partner with that. So we reduced the 150 down, 25 of that was CTF funds, and that was how the way CTF funds now requested to work, they didn't want us to be a pass-through, so you had to be invoiced directly. And so we did work with Pro Electric to decommission that knob and tubing knife board on the stage this season with your CTF funds.
well, okay, I'm just asking about the dollar amount because the presentation says 25,000. But on our budget on page 5 on the, shoot, I found the line. And now,
It's 0140-6.
but 0140-6, what is the actual, what's the last?
For
word?
upper house contributions,
Got you.
6523.
Oh, yeah, 6523. So it does say it's 150,000, 10,000 from CTF. So which,
That was last year's.
so we should just change that to
last
25.
year. It's still sitting in the 2024 budget that way.
I think we're open to what makes sense for you all. I think that part of that strategy last year was to maybe reduce the general fund, but I also know you've now depleted your CTF funds, as you just talked about, and have other assets that you need to manage. So, you know, we're willing to work within the parameters of the city sees fit to utilize those CTF funds under the.
And you have 10,000 under CTF to go to Tipper.
Yeah, so in the budget, so I would say unless we need to figure out how to, you know, crunch the numbers, because we're running still, this budget is still running as a deficit. I think it probably is better to make it 10,000 from CTF rather than 25, but I know we did that last year in part because we needed to have a balanced budget and we did have Well, but when we now have depleted the CTF funds, so what we'll have for 2024 is just what comes in, not anything left over.
Mhm.
So budgeting, it's about 30,000. 25 would be almost the whole amount. So I think 10, just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. For right now, I think 10 out of the CTF funds is probably appropriate.
We can completely work with you on that. And I guess I would.
Well, we know
also-
it's easier for you, the less you get out of, the less paperwork.
Yeah, but we are happy to partner with you in whatever makes the most sense and makes it all function for you on your budgets. I'll also just add one other thing. When it comes to our presentations to DOLA, like tomorrow, they do specifically ask us like, well, where is the applicant, AKA the city's matching cash contribution to the grant request? And we share and show that we are a lean and mighty community, and you've been helping us with our operational funding the last several years, and that is your contribution, and that satisfies their question and concerns for their continued reinvestment into the project.
Right, and you've made the point before, it is so much easier to chase grants for things other than operational costs. Like it is, there isn't that money out there.
Correct. And there's just things that come up. We are working with Pro Electric, the week after next to install heat tape in the two corners. The way the apexing works and the distance, it's double what they initially quoted us. We're able to get some of that from contingency with the State Historic Fund on our current project that's open, that they're gonna give us additional dollars. It's only a small portion and the rest coming from our tax credits, but that's because we've already been seeing some water issues on the corner of the southeast corner. And we wanna make sure that we do not immediately start damaging that brand new investment of brick work that's been completed.
I don't have any more questions. I would say right now, what we have plugged in the budget is 140 plus 10. Which is what we did last year. The budget's not final, but that's where we are in the second.
We appreciate it, and we are working really hard to leverage every dollar you give us and find more pools and funders so that we can reduce that in the very near future. Okay. Anything else, team?
Oh, I think that way better than maybe that's good.
Okay.
You've done it.
We presented to county yesterday, so.
We definitely appreciate the city support on this, and it's working very well. We're getting great momentum.
You know, when we first committed to this, the main purpose of it was to hire an executive director. That's been a home run.
Yeah.
It's been the difference. It's
definitely.
yeah. Without that, we'd still be treading water. So, good job.
Awesome. Okay, well, we thank you very much, and we are available if questions pop up.
Great, thank you. The only question that might pop up is if we get to the point where we need to, talk about what the conservation trust fund withdrawal looks like, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We only have $206,276.04 to find. So
Okay, great. Yeah, we're doing the same thing as a team. And I would also just say, we'd also be interested in knowing what the snow removal plan around city sidewalks maybe this coming season. So,
we just hired a maintenance worker today,
oh, great.
that is his job description.
Wonderful. When you're ready for us to meet him, I'm happy to meet him. anytime.
Today was his first day, so we're going maybe tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. I'll just skate up right up from Avon.
Yeah,
Do that.
What time will you be there tomorrow? Or will somebody be there?
Oh, I'll be there by noon once I come back from DOLA presentation in Avon, so by noon.
Your presentation is early, then.
It's at 9:45 tomorrow morning.
Okay.
break
Yes,
leg,
everybody, we all
Yeah,
want
break-
that.
break-
Yeah.
because you can't say, in theater, you can't say good luck, so break a leg.
Thank you so much. Very apropos. Okay, thank you, council.
Oh, I did not go over that. I want to do, but you know, something, I thought your lady was a good one. I really. Okay. See you later. You left me a message. I've tried a couple times to listen to it, and it just kept dropping, so I apologize.
You're
We'll
all, good. We'll get
We'll
to
get
it.
into that conversation. Thank you. I was interested, I just wasn't working. Street Department budget. Hey, Tony.
Well, good evening. Be gentle, this is my first time.
So the easiest part is if I can, because it saves a lot of hunting around, the streets department budget starts on page 8.
Packet,
On the smaller version,
page 8.
so we should, this is funny, it's still version 1.0 at the top, but at any rate, it's the one that,
Well,
Did you really? I bet you weren't, with 45 high school students.
I was not. Thank goodness.
Oh,
Got it.
okay, I focused, promise.
So you want to give us some idea of what you're asking for and why?
Well, we're trying to stick with close to what the same budget was last year. We want some increases on some things because of just different things that are coming up. One of the top things will be our gas and oil. We'd like to add a little bit to that. The fuel prices right now are just unbelievable. They just, some days are fairly low and then they just jump up 20 cents overnight. And diesel is kind of expensive and that's what we run. Everything is pretty much diesel except for our smaller trucks. So I believe we were set for 25 or 35,000 for the year. We'd like to jump that up to 10,000 to 45 if we could. Just because of the price increase on everything. For our fuel and oil, everything is going up as far as petroleum products. So that's one thing that we're looking at. There's just a couple other things that with projects that we got coming up. Our street materials and equipment repair, we'd just like to increase those a little bit. Not a whole lot, but just enough to give us a little room. This year, we ended up having to buy a set of tires right off the bat, and that was $10,000 out of our $14,000 budget. So if we could increase that, because we're gonna have some more, we have older equipment, we're gonna have to be replacing chains on a regular basis in the next couple of years, and they're $2,500 a pair. One grader needs 3 sets. So that's just under $10,000 for 3 sets of chains. We've got 2 graders. We don't always run chains on both of them, but when it's necessary, we need to have them. We've got 1 loader that runs 2 pairs all the time. It's what we call our alley cat. It's set up to do all the alleys, and for safety reasons, we keep chains on that year round, especially during the winter time, going through the alleys and cleaning everything like that. Those have been on there for almost 3 years. They're very well used. It's time to replace those. I believe I've got enough in this year's budget to get some of these chains, but these are wear items that every year we're gonna have to be replacing 1, 2, 3 sets. It just depends on the winter and how much use we have during that season. The materials, the reason why we're asking for a little bit more on that is that there are some projects that we want to do this next coming year on culverts, and they're very expensive. We've got a tentative agreement trying to find some culverts right now. We have not heard anything back from that yet, but I've already priced the metal culverts through Big R here, and 30-inch by 20-foot culvert is just under $1,200 a piece. And to do some of our culverts, we're gonna need anywhere. If we do all the whole projects that we've been looking at, we're gonna need at least 8. So we're talking a fairly good chunk of money on just that culvert system. That doesn't include the bands for all that. And setting up, that's man hours for the rest of that, but that's a separate issue with our regular time and stuff. Equipment repair, like I said, we got older equipment. We'd like to increase that up a bit. I don't believe we show anything on here. But we're gonna need to increase on that, just because we do have some older equipment, we've got several.
Which
workers.
line item is that, Tony?
That would be under,
6215, it looks like.
yeah. I believe that's right. Yeah. So if we could, jump that up, I believe right now it's set at 14,000, if we could even make it an even 20, that would give us a little, a bit extra there. That way we have our chains and we have, materials, be able to buy the repair equipment and stuff for those. This year we've kind of getting to our limit on the budget right now, trying to get ready for next year, but like I said, with older equipment, we're gonna need regular repairs. And then we come to the vehicle lease. We had talked about, and I know the request has been made over the years for a jetter and power vac to clean the culverts and stuff, the active culverts that we have right now. And we've got quite a few around town that need to be cleaned. Right now, we're using a water truck and actually forcing water through that. The tank holds about 3,500 gallons and it takes anywhere from full 8 to 16 hours of usually three operators to clean that out. And they're physically down in there getting into everything. We've got a power jet set, it's like a sewer jetter setup, but it's way too small. It takes forever to do that. I've been kind of pricing and getting quotes from different company that built our trucks for the water truck and for the dump trucks and stuff like this, Coy Brothers. And they brought up a full-size ultimate dream truck for us to do a demonstration and stuff. And they cleaned in the demonstration culvert. It was 36-inch culvert by about 40 feet in about an hour and a half. They did 2 side by side.
Why didn't you just come to do the rest of?
Yeah, it's a demo.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, we got them to do one of the ones we were having problems with, so they cleaned that out for us. And then we're always concerned about what's going on out by the laundromat, and we went over there and we pulled all the covers on that and gonna have them clean them out. They were clean.
Don't you need another
Didn't-
demonstration?
Well, they were gonna do it for us and stuff, but then we ran out of time because by the time we got set up over there, pulled the covers, we get down in there and the bolts are clean. There was no sand, nothing. Even the operators were like, this would be a waste of our time to even drop a hose into this right now.
This debris was not getting in,
No,
right?
it was, they were clean. But that unit was a full-size truck, big, tandem, everything. And when I asked the price on that, which I kind of hesitated to, but, that one setup was, 650,000. Yes. So we told him that we needed something smaller, something that we could use for the hook trucks that we have right now, and they do have the setup to do that. And they actually sent me a quote today with some pictures and stuff. And that is a hook setup and the vacuum tank and everything with the water. And this one has more of the specs. It's like a 600-gallon tank, and it'll pull everything through there. And this would be more aligned with the size that we would need to do the culverts and everything that we would do. And the manpower involved in this would cut it down quite a bit. In fact, it'd probably be just a driver and an operator to run the hoses and everything like this. So that would cut down at least from 3 to 4 operators to just the 2. And the time saving alone would be awesome for us. And we'd be able to get a lot more of these culverts done that we need to. And the guys have been working on them all throughout the summer at different times, so we're in pretty good shape. After the big flood, we found the problems that we had and we cleaned out those culverts first. And so everything is running pretty good. This is the diagrams, and it gives you a little bit more technical stuff on what the tank is. And stuff,
about, you know, with this hook truck, unit, what about water pressure and vacuum pressure?
It's all right on there, like 2,500.
Yeah,
It's
but how does it compare
To
what
the,
we need. I just.
no, this is what we, he went around with us, and
Okay.
this is what he recommends for what we need. For the culverts that we would use it for, the jetter and, for the, it's like the sewer type jetter. And this is what he recommends for what. we
What's
would
a
need.
typical weight? This is an 8,000 pound hook truck unit. What's a typical weight? What is the lock box weigh? Do you have any idea?
Rock box empty, I believe, is about 3,000, 4,000 pounds, cause it's solid steel.
So this is almost double that weight.
Yeah.
The truck will handle it.
Yes, cause,
Okay.
they're the ones that actually, set us up on the rock box setup with the truck and the box. And when he came over, I had him go to that truck and specifically look to make sure that this unit would fit, it would handle it. And he said there would be some different modifications for hydraulics just because of what the unit is, but nothing that we would add extra.
You haven't hit me yet.
I'm trying to sell it before I give you the price.
See that?
So the original truck was 650, 660,000.
I want to hear it.
This one, get ready, 360.
Oh.
But they do have a, lease program, and he is getting me more information, to get us, try and get us set up and at least get an option of what we would be looking at if we were to do something with it. It sounds,
Cost to just hire somebody to come and blow them all out every other year.
Yeah.
Or every year, I don't know what
the number of culverts and everything, and the vaults alone on Harrison Avenue, we'd almost have to hire somebody for a month straight at least.
but.
I haven't looked into,
In an ignorance question, is that something you would do every year? Is that something you'd ever do or do every 10 years?
this is something that we should do every year
It should every year.
because of the number, and since they haven't really been done in a while, I think they've been done only when there's been an incident that plugged up, needed to be done. I believe they used to use an old vacuum truck, it was a sweeper that they had before the one we have now, and it had a vacuum setup and they could do some of that. It wasn't real strong, but they could get what they needed done with that. This one here, these ones are all specifically designed for this type of thing. The way they were talking, that you can even do like hydro digging with the hose and everything, shooting water in, sucking the dirt out, like say if we needed to dig out around a edge of a culvert just to get it all cleared out and we pour concrete, whatever. They said that this could do that.
And what is the lifespan of a piece of equipment like this?
That, I'm not sure, but if it's well maintained, I would say at least be 10, 15 years. Maybe even longer, it just depends on how well it's maintained, and, Tyler does very well at taking care of things. He's got a nice little maintenance program that I've been watching him and learning from him, and he does very well, so I think this would be a very good long-term purchase, and it definitely would be used.
Thank you.
Does the county have any equipment like this, that they use, do you know?
They have, when I was up there, they had a hot seat with for a power washer on the trailer. And that was one way to do it. They did have I think it was called a Johnson back truck, and it's got a very short hose on it. And I'm not sure how strong that will be to do these things here. And
Don't know if I remember this correctly, but didn't the county borrow our sweeper vac before we traded that in when we got the new sweeper?
they had to, yeah. I believe theirs was down. It was. hose
Oh, maybe
problems.
theirs was down. Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I
Because I
thought they-
remember that you did use it,
We both
and,
got Johnson sweepers and theirs was down.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so they were basically working with what we had.
yeah.
Okay.
Would you say that this kind of preventive maintenance will allow our newly paved roads to last longer? Or,
I would hope so, but most of the time that when the roads get cut up, it's because of sewer lines and water lines that Parkville has to put in, or if the
you don't
gas
think
lines.
it's any of the overflow that's causing road
No, there's our broken lines.
damage?
Their infrastructure is getting so old that they
You're
break.
not helping yourself here.
He's being honest, though. He's being honest.
That we don't really have a whole lot of control over because, you know, they're the ones that deal with all that.
Yeah.
All we do is supervise and make sure that they try and put the roads back.
I'm
together.
thinking more like a problem down by the rail yards and stuff like that.
Well, one of the things I think we've talked about for the streets farm goals is working on the drainage, right?
Mhm.
So when we're looking at paving, looking at the culverts and looking at, and keeping, I mean, water flows downhill, we all know that. We all know that, like, we've had big major storms, 100-year storms more often than not. So this is preventative maintenance
Yes.
that we need to do to make sure that we're not having a problem when we have a heavy rainstorm, so.
So, yes.
It's, I mean, I think the only thing that we, you know, to just be fair on this and to crunch some numbers is, I mean, I do think it's something we can use all the time. The question is, can we lease a piece of equipment occasionally and have that be, but the problem is, you know, you're gonna have a major storm that fills up all the culverts, and they need to be cleaned all at once. You know, we can, if we lease a piece of equipment, can we get it for that long, and how
And how
expensive is
quickly,
that?
yeah.
Well, I guess I'd like to follow up on that a little bit, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming you wouldn't do any culvert clean out during the winter months.
Sometimes it's necessary if it freezes up, if we do have some that still flow. And if there's a freeze up on it, then we'll have to get in there and
Okay,
Try and
that's good
clear
to
'em.
know. So like a 6-month lease would not be that effective necessarily, because you might run into a situation where you have to
Yeah.
clean the culvert out in March, for example.
yeah.
Okay,
So if you were to order that piece of equipment, what's delivery time? Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? What is
He
it?
was talking like it was available almost immediately. I can get an exact date from him. He made it sound that these things are built to specs and all we have to do is call them and they put them together.
Well, here's why I'm asking, you know, because we're in the 5th year. of
Yeah, I just saw that.
Mack trucks, we're now in 2024, we're in the 5th year of a 5-year lease of the Mack truck. It's $45,000 a year. And so in 2025, that money would be freed up.
Mhm.
And we might have to add some to it. I'm just thinking out loud in terms of how the budget works and where money is going to be available. So money's not gonna be available against this to fulfill that need until 2025. That's what it looks like, just on
Mhm.
paper right now.
Okay.
Yeah, because you were looking, I just saw that too. You're looking at the first line 6202. And so that was updated. Lease purchase payments for the Mack truck 4th of 5th year. So that's been updated for 2020.
The 5th of 5th year, yeah. A lot
Gotcha.
of these notes haven't been.
Okay, so
updated
it's
to-
5th of 5th.
to
So
the-
20,
to this year.
so 2024 is 5th. So last year, basically.
Correct.
Okay. And that's fixed at 45,571.
It is, it's a lease.
I'd like to follow up on Christian's question too. Is there any way to share equipment with the county?
That I'm not sure, like I could approach Mike and I think Mr. Goodwin here may have a better answer than I do about something like that. It's something we can approach them and see if there's something.
Rent it to them, very expensive.
There you go.
Well, no, it's one of those things where maybe there's times when it makes sense to co-own a piece of equipment.
Mhm.
Right, that's.
You know, especially a very expensive piece of
Yes.
equipment, which might make it more reasonable and palatable to both organizations. And then the usage of it also starts making a lot more sense in terms of, you know, because you don't need it all the time.
Right.
And you can schedule each other, I don't know.
Sure.
Please have that conversation with Michael. And just see if I don't know what equipment he needs, if he needs this piece of equipment. Then
Yeah.
it could be a possibility, if he doesn't need this piece of equipment, then. you know,
Then we make our decision based upon what works for us. Yeah.
May I ask about something else? Last year. You had $84,000 in the budget for building repair and maintenance that didn't get spent, but that also spent to be for the roof.
That
and
would
it
be,
just didn't happen.
60,000 of it was for the roof and it didn't happen. We put it back in this year. Although we dropped the number, I think this from 84 to 69.
Yeah.
Based on our conversation.
Are we still talking about replacing the buildings up there?
Talking, yes. The reality is.
We never did a sketch plan.
Well, what we've been doing is trying to get a survey of upper,
11th.
East of 11th and Ash. To try and find out, okay, what does that property actually look like? Because there's also a mining claim that bifurcates that property. So we need to know from a survey, what property is actually available to us to do that.
And we have engaged a company to do that survey.
They've done the survey, we just haven't gotten the results.
Correct. I mean, surveys are taking forever, so.
Were you gonna say, Tony?
I actually talked to the property owner right next, the one with the mining claims
Dave,
and
yeah.
Dave, and he's just sold that property. And, yeah, and we're not sure who the new owners, they're locals. We're not sure exactly if they're building on it or if they're just buying the property for preservation. But until I can actually sit down and talk to them and get a little feel about that. But he was gonna send me a map showing the boundaries, and he had worked with our survey company where they came up with everything.
I would just say get with Chapin because he's been talking to that owner.
Yeah, Chapin is one that told me that they worked together to get that, so.
So another possibility is, we did a swap, a land swap, for the 3 lots that we have there across from the shop that used to belong to Bob and Jay. Okay, now they own 4 lots across, on, that Hemlock there. They own 4 lots on Hemlock that are adjacent to our 3 lots. Those 4 lots would, if we could sweet talk them into selling us that land, that might be the right way to go in terms of having a place for the shop.
Yes.
I'm just, we've talked about it before, it's a thought, I don't know if it's a good thought or not.
Actually, for what we have right now, and if we were to build even some kind of temporary structure, something to cover our equipment, that would be great to have that area.
Just throw up a steel building.
Yeah,
And have
Just
room
something-
inside for storage.
just to keep our equipment out of the weather during the winter and the summer, that type of thing.
Well, we also don't really have a great place to store sand, CDOT stores our sand for us. That's great, but Floyd may not be there forever. When he's gone, we don't know what that bridge may look like.
True.
Floyd's the director of CDOT here locally, and he allows us to keep sand undercover at the CDOT yard down there on Highway 24, which is really nice of him, and it's worked out great for us, but if we don't have that, we don't have a place to store sand inside.
So that would probably be something we talk about for our capital budget that's capital improvements for 2020.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tony, with the conversation we just had, I'd really like, for starters, to have a conversation with Michael, just see if that's a need for the county. If it's not, then it's a moot point. Then we have to consider
Okay.
what we do and in what time frame. Then as far as the future is concerned, we need to get that roof replaced this year. We languished last year, you were brand new, so.
Well, every time I got estimates from the guys, the 3 companies in town, being that the amount is, one of them would not show up and turn it in on time, so we ran out of time on the bids. And then turns out that they're all 3 companies that were willing to give us a bid are related.
Well, there's a surprise.
Yeah, all 3 of them are Martinez companies. But unfortunately, we lost one of them this summer. So now we're down to the 2 companies, and I'm trying to get another company that I know the owner on that one, see if he'll bid on it as well.
Yeah, good. See what you
It's,
do.
it's just, it fell through the cracks because of all the things with them, and it definitely needs to be done.
So the only question I have then on, the vehicle lease payments line 6209. You've got 50K for vac unit and service truck. So you already calculated into this, that,
Plug that in.
gotcha.
Tell Tony he had to come in under $200,000 for the vac truck, which he failed to do. So,
Well, I'm just saying, wait, but wait, so all I'm saying is this number here includes the potential cost for a vac truck at 50K.
yeah, so there's 50K sitting there.
Thank you, that's,
Yeah, and that's based on 5-year leases.
We haven't even talked about the service truck.
That service truck is part of it.
Is that part of
So
that
it's
$50,000?
$200,000 for that truck and $50,000 for a service truck. We know we can get a service truck for less
Yes.
because we saw that they were selling like 43,000, 46,000 last year.
the only other question, Tony, I had for you is on the street lighting 6341 line item, $4,000. Is that, does that include the poles?
I just, I just got a quote to
Yeah.
replace the pole that was damaged down on Fourth and Harrison,
And
to replace that
damaged
pole.
as in sheared off and
Totally.
completely missing,
Completely
just so
missing.
we're clear.
We went down and looked at it and the concrete's gonna have to be redone as well around there, cause when it sheared off, it took all the anchor bolts and everything. To replace that pole, identical to what we have here, same company, same setup, $4,200 for one pole.
Red across there.
$4,200.
Took that pole out, and kept going.
Well, and that's, we'll talk about recouping that cost,
Yeah.
because that's possible, but I just wanted to say, as far as that, we do have the, do you think $4,000 is enough for all the streetlights that are out on Harrison? Cause we were talking about that,
Yeah.
you had Pro Electric come out and look at them, and we need to figure out why they're not working.
Well, the flickering ones are because of the sockets are out of place or something, they're falling over, that's why the lights are flickering. So we're gonna get them to replace those. As far as what's going on with the rest of them, they're gonna have to trace the lines and make sure there's not broken lines or something there, and I have not heard from them. It's time for me to call them again
Okay.
and find out what the status is on that. I know they were almost a month out on everything when I talked to them, and that was just about a month ago.
So that amount is just for repair of wiring.
Yeah, repair light wires, light bulbs,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. But if we have to replace one, they're very expensive.
So is replacement of that pole in the budget somewhere?
Well, we're gonna try and recoup the cost from the person who
The
sheared the
guy
pole.
wasn't sure, so.
Oh, okay.
they fixed it.
It was that kind of
Problem.
accident.
Yes.
It didn't just topple over from old age. Okay.
No, and I've actually sent the copy of the quote to the sheriff's officer that took care of it.
Thank
I
you.
just haven't heard anything back from him, but that still didn't include the electric rewiring, and we're gonna have to redo the concrete base on that, but 12 weeks out on getting that light, so it's probably not gonna happen until springtime, because that'll be middle of winter and can't pour concrete during
Okay.
snowstorms.
So Tony, you talked about some things that were not part of our conversation earlier, so we'll sit down and go. over
Yes,
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Make you,
they were just ideas to throw out there.
I don't know, you just try to sneak one in on your
Well, and I think the key thing to point out is we still have $200,000 for street paving, which we all know, will get us block and a half, I don't know, maybe more than that, but it is a slow chipping away at our,
You can do about 4 blocks for $200,000.
I think that's about what we got. 8th Street over here, as wide as it was, counts for extra.
yeah,
So this one here would probably be about 3 blocks, and then we did up on 7th, and that whole section up there. That's easily a very long, wide block as well.
Will they, in the developer help pay for some of the
The one around the corner,
water? The water and the developer who
I'm not sure if
broke
Parkville,
the water line.
No, we split the cost with Parkville.
Okay.
yeah,
That was really cheap, that whole block was, for us, was 25,000, so it was a good price.
yeah, we got a decent deal on that there. But the Parkville dealt with them as far as their water, and their damages and everything that they did there. Then we got in front of St. George's, and I believe we're pretty close to our 200,000, if not a little bit over, so.
We
Using-
squeezed as much as we could out of literally, I think every meeting I had with Tony. The whole year, I said, how are we on paving?
Yeah.
So we. Squeezed absolutely everything we could have, so thank you to your folks.
And the guys, the companies, they, right up to the last day. In fact, they finished St. George's was the last day that ACA. Shipped out any asphalt at all, they closed.
Great, fantastic work.
Are we still working with, like, maybe not working, but getting an understanding of what Parkville and Excel are gonna be doing? So we're not paving roads that are gonna be torn up.
We get a weekly update on what Excel wants to work on. Sitewise is already gone for the year. I just finished doing all the, dig permits, closing out on everything, checking their work, making sure everything got paid. Parkville's got a couple left, nothing too serious that can't wait. But for the most part, everything that was dug up by Sitewise is done. They had their resto crew here for weeks.
I do want to interject here. And historically, we've talked to Parkville and sanitation for years about the quality of the restoration of their cuts. And we know, if you go back 5 decades, it's horrible. That's the reason the streets are in bad shape as they are. Overall, the streets wouldn't be so bad, except these utility companies have done a poor job of when they restore them, they save it.
Yeah.
And we've got it all over town. So that having been said, we agreed about 4 years ago, we went to them and said, something's gotta give. And so they agreed to compaction, which they should have been doing all along. And it's 18-inch lifts, so they do 18 inches of road base or soil. They have to compact it, and then it has to be tested. It has to be within 95% of compaction. But the only people who can test compaction are over in Summit County. Nobody lives here. So then they have to be 18-inch lifts. Well, they agreed to that, and we agreed to not make them do flow fill. Guess what? They're not compacted. I've never seen a compaction certificate, not one, ever. So what I've told Tony is, we have to press this next year for flow fill from everybody. Now, Sidewise or Excel does it already. CDOT requires flow fill. I've heard, and maybe you told me the Parkway started using flow fill.
Different locations I've seen that they have, but
I think it has to be required.
Yeah.
So that's just, some insights into, they're not gonna like it, because what Greg Teeter told me 4 years ago, it would quadruple the cost of the restorations. I believe it. I mean, I get it, okay, sorry, but at this point, just has to happen.
It sounds like they could also work on their own revenue income, I have plenty of opportunities there too, and I know that, so that sucks, but the reality of it is we're gonna be wasting so much money if we have to do this every 10 years. And I mean, we're headed that way with that.
We should assure that if we're gonna pave streets and someone has to cut into them, that street's gonna stay, well paved.
Yeah.
All right, that's all.
I think next year we're gonna have to look at that whole ordinances and everything and requirements for that too. There were so many cuts on some of these streets over here that if you looked at it, technically they should have done the whole block. And I think we can look into that and seeing that if they do so many cuts and so much,
It's defined
Area.
in the permit process.
we're gonna have to just enforce that more next year, and the flow fill is,
Yeah.
it's already in plan. I've already talked to Lori and we'll sit down more. and
What you're going to need to do, you don't have to change it in ordinance, but you have to change it in the permitting process.
Yes,
And, it's in order to require flow fill for everyone.
Now, does that affect already in place agreements like Excel's? I know they already do flow fill, but in the chance that they didn't.
No.
They have to get permits every year.
Every year, okay, so,
They have to get permits for where they excavate, so it's not a blanket permit for the whole city.
okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure about that, thanks.
yeah, I just closed out 7 permits in the last week. Between Sitewise and Excel and Parkville. So, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Any questions for Tony?
Thank you.
I have one more. Could we get a back, unit? That's not a hook truck, but would just sit on a trailer. We could buy trailers all day long for $2,000.
Yeah. I'm waiting for 2 more quotes from him.
Okay,
The one for the trailer back jetties and the service truck quote that they
now, just
offered.
take a heavier duty trailer,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
but, okay.
a car hauler.
I sure like to see that.
And stuff, but yeah, he's working on that. I just didn't receive it in time for today.
All right, thank you.
Nothing else?
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good.
Does everyone need to take a break? Sure. Go do it.
Take you on that.
Who is,
Oh, wait, yeah, we should get back up.
I think
We are recording and just gonna send this to Danielle.
there has been discussion at the local urban renewal authority meetings about producing a budget. I disagree with Carrie. She seemed to think that the urban renewal authority budget should be the same as the city's URA budget. I'm pretty sure I disagree with that. Tracy, what do you think?
I don't know what you mean, but
Well, she's,
yeah, obviously it would be different,
that's what I
because
think,
you're just gonna give us money.
or not.
Or
based on
not.
this budget, so.
And then we have to live within the money we get.
Precisely, so I'm not sure where we're going with that, so I don't wanna make a definitive statement, I really need to have this conversation with Karen. So right now, the Urban Renewal Authority, well, the city has supported it, for many years. And appropriately so, that's the way it works, it's almost always worked that way for all urban renewal authorities. And, by statute, according to Linda Michelle, then the city is responsible for attorney's fees for the urban renewal authority. And should take responsibility for some admin for the urban renewal authority. Now, we haven't had the bandwidth to have any admin. So instead, Amelia has been doing the admin work, and Carrie Bartow, the admin work for the urban renewal authority. It's working okay, you know, it's, we're getting by right now, but we don't have money, so, the whole different issue. Now, this budget, Carrie in 2024 has estimated $793,000. I haven't had the conversation with her, so I don't know on what she has based that. I don't think she sat down and talked with the assessor yet. She and Linda we're going to meet with them, and I haven't heard any more about it, so I'm assuming they haven't. We do have a URA meeting in 2 weeks. I think we have one in November, right?
Not until December.
Oh, December, you're
And
right.
then
It's every other
the
month.
budget.
It's every 2 months. We'll approve the budget in December. So this is a budget that Carrie sent to us. I don't have a problem with it, but I also don't know exactly what the basis for the numbers is in terms of $793,000. It's an attractive number. It means, go ahead.
Well, that, all I can think is it's because it was a reevaluation year and there's so much new stuff that she's estimating it based on the values.
And I would think that makes sense.
So it's helpful to recap for everybody who doesn't know the format is that we do have what is it? The intergovernmental agreement between the city of Leadville and the Leadville Urban Renewal Authority, which was October 26, 2017. And I don't know, I know we've heard this by statute, we have to pay the legal fees. It doesn't matter. We've agreed in the intergovernmental agreement to pay for legal services. And so when Linda Michel's firm said they could no longer handle the work as being our city attorney, they did say they could handle the work to be the Leadville Urban Renewal Authority, and I have assured Linda that the city will continue to cover those legal costs.
Okay.
So that is easy peasy, because it's in the IGA. Linda can do it. We've agreed to pay for it, so the legal costs are pretty straightforward.
We are working on a new IGA.
Okay,
What
Sounds
I-
good.
What I would like to know from Linda is an approximation of what she expects the legal fees to be. We've got $30,000 in here in our budget in legal fees. What does Linda project?
15.
15? Then we can change this, in terms of our budget.
So are you, what you're saying is what you want to put in the city budget for the URA is the
Is-
cost of the legal fees.
Is the cost of what the city will be responsible.
well,
for.
there's, right, there'll be a couple, and then the other question is, because that's a separate part of the IGA, is the advance of funds. And that's the second thing, is the question is, you know, how much does the city contribute to the Urban Renewal Authority just as funds? And so in 2017, the IGA said it would be $30,000. That's easy. Paragraph A in 2017 is $30,000. Paragraph B says the city may agree in future years to advance funds to Laura subject to annual appropriation and repayment by the Laura on terms and conditions as may be set forth in a promissory note or similar instrument. So the question is, every year we've had is, what should that dollar amount be? And it has varied over the years between 25 and 30. And then I think last year we did 30, and then Laura came with a supplemental budget and we supplemented by another
Now,
90.
You threw out a number at the last Laura meeting
Hmm?
of $97,000.
Right, I did, but I also had to see this. So. it's
But
not-
if you see it though, you see that most of it goes right back down.
Most of it,
We
what?
bring in 792,000, we pay out 689,000.
Well, of course, because we're required by law to do that. It's
It's not
statute.
like we have all this money.
I understand.
So it's
Telling you what you said
You're
at the
not-
meeting.
You're not wrong. You're not
I guess
wrong.
I'm unclear then for the budget for 2024. How much is the Laura asking of
Yeah.
the city? The bottom line is,
As
what-
far as I could tell, that's not an ask. We had talked about a budget, but again, that's where I saw these numbers. The Lura gets to cover its costs before it does reimbursements to the taxing entities. So regardless of what the costs are, they're first in line for payment under the Urban Renewal Authority. So I don't know what the answer is. I think what we need to have in the budget is what we think the city is going to be responsible for the URA. I really need to have this conversation with Carrie. I apologize, I haven't done it yet. It just has to happen.
Well, do you want to revisit this conversation then at another work session?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll have to. But it is good at least to see what the Lura's budget is. And then, depending on how the meeting goes with Carrie and Linda Michelle and the assessor, that could inform this number as well.
right,
I don't know where it's at.
right, because the idea was with the Urban Renewal Authority over time, it would become self-sufficient. And then, you know, where we would agree to provide some support in terms of maybe legal services or office space or whatever, the actual operating costs in the future would be covered by its own TIF, tax increment. So the question is, how close is it to being able to fly from the nest? We don't know.
Okay? Thank you.
And I think this then also needs to be updated because I don't think that city funding in 2023 was $31,750. I think it was more than that. 2023 initially, I think, was 25 or 30, and then you all came with us. I mean, I can look it up.
You could just update us when we have the next discussion. Because
Well,
I would actually like to get a treasurer's report at some
well,
point.
actually, in a way, you're looking at it. this budget also has what has been spent year to date in 2023 against every line item, but only through the end of August.
Right.
So I did,
And we have yet to ever get a treasurer's report from the
Oh,
URA treasurer.
I see,
I
okay,
would like to see that.
okay.
Okay, well, I just wanted to note that. I think
It
it,
kind of goes hand in hand with having both of these in front of us.
yeah, I just think it's more than that, and I can look up and see what the supplemental was, and then, actually, we should have on our, hold on a second, so. Well, we can look it up for the next meeting, what the initial contribution was for the Laura, I think. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to put my finger on it right now, I saw it a minute ago, but, okay. I think we need to just be clear on how much, I think it was closer to 100 instead of 31. So, okay.
Well, in 2022, it was $96,015. In 2023, you have to show about negative $3,000. I don't know how that happened, but that's what it's showing, so.
It's trying to, yeah, you haven't spent any money in 2023. We know that's not true.
No, it's not good. Yeah, okay.
Oh, That's weird. Yeah, so if you look on page 10. I don't think it's under just legal. I think it's page 10, 51. 60, oh shoot. I'm like-
65?
No, 50, 6301, because I'm
Yeah.
lining it up. It was all just put under professional services legal, so it looks like initially we budgeted 30, but then there was a supplemental that I can probably find because I think we did it by.
It'd be nice to
Resolution.
have real numbers.
Yep, well, we should update that. Okay,
Thank you.
Why did it go in 2022? Why did we have 25 budgeted, but we spent 96?
25 is a placeholder. We never have any idea what we're gonna spend in a given year. We just put a placeholder in there.
And I understand that. This is not my strong suit, so bear with me.
Okay.
But in 2021, we spent 25-ish thousand dollars. Why did it go up 4 times in 2022 and then come back to consulting fees? $75,000 worth.
more than that. It's about $300,000 worth of consulting fees.
Well, that's over 7 years.
Yeah.
Over 6 years, sorry. Okay,
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
back to what it wants to go on.
So, at the beginning, we agreed to have a discussion about the police, but do it at the end.
Yeah.
And because that would be the next. Yeah.
Well, we have the regional housing
Yeah.
authority
Okay.
and then after.
The Regional Housing Authority, who's presenting?
Well, I guess I can start us off. Let me get in a better position. So basically, I've been asking for a while for a meeting, for a work session between the county and the city. Partially to discuss the budget, but also just to discuss the regional housing authority as a whole. There's a lot of things that, from my perspective, especially as president of the organization, I have a lot of questions about how it's operating and a lot of discussions that I think need to be had is how it's operating and how we would like it to operate. Long term in the general, not getting into any of the nitty gritty, just generally speaking. Obviously, this is a budget work session, so I don't know if this would be the most appropriate space for it, though I'm open to having it. But I imagine that conversation would take a lot longer than the 15 minutes schedule. As far as the budget discussion, I had mentioned this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. We had already said that it is a necessity on our end, at least the mayor and I have, that we need to pay into the $30,000 request, $300,000 request, sorry, which was 30. So that we could continue with the funding that we received from DOLA. So it's our understanding that that is part of the match for the DOLA grant. So it's something that we have prioritized as a necessity, not a desire. So for what that's worth for you, you guys in the county. That said, I wanted to give an opportunity for Jackie to present the budget she's worked on to give us a little bit more, not necessarily line item, exact line by line item, but a general idea of what the funding is going to be used for. So Jackie, if you want to present some of that for the funding.
So in your packet, you have the budget that was signed off on by the city and the county. I think it's gonna be the third page of the attachment. And in there, it shows the city and the county contributions for the DOLA grant. Things changed when the sites changed. And so you'll see in there also, as a separate attachment, is the updated DOLA incentives grant budget for the project. So this project is to address bringing infrastructure to two sites, to the school district site at 0.96 acres, and then also to the now the county will own the hospital property as of tomorrow morning at 9:30 or so. And that's 7 lots. And so we're hoping to build on 2 sites, 20 units, and the infrastructure costs address so that the budget addresses those infrastructure costs. And so the budget changed from our initial application with DOLA. I have submitted this to our DOLA rep, and he has submitted it for contract last week on Friday. And then we're also in that budget, we're hoping to plan development of the Harrison Ballfield property that's approximately 10 acres by West Clark, by the intermediate school. It used to be housing for Climax. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. It's got great connectivity, it's close to the school, it's close to the middle belt, it's close to transportation and to Safeway. And it's flat, very much unlike the school district site, which I toured today, a little fussy, and it's gonna require a lot of dirt work. So anyway, let's jump into that budget. Also built into the budget is remediation for the 2 sites. We did have the phase 1 and the phase 2 study conducted by the EPA. And the results came back higher than they even expected. Remediation will be part of the project. So that is the new budget. The ask, if you go to the other spreadsheet that I had in there, it's just kind of showing what was in the original budget, how much the city and the county agreed to pay. So the city for the first year is paying $240,000, and then the county is paying $326,000. The county also contributed the remaining ARPA funds to be dispersed between DHS and the DOLA grant, and then this new consideration of the hospital property valued at $380,000, which was the debt relief for their loan that they experienced in January for making payroll. So some of the things that I've outlined in terms of what we need and to be able to operate going forward, I need additional staff. My husband had open heart surgery on the 13th. I've been working nonstop. I need additional staff. I can't continue with this. I took his blood pressure before I came to this meeting. He's doing great. My blood pressure is through the roof. So I just, want to say it's gotten to that point. The additional match, because the numbers change on the sites, we're looking at an additional match of $324,304. And these numbers, I'm afraid these numbers are probably going to be light anyway, because They were created by, Michael Yerman, who was helping us with our consultant work. And, I think that they're probably old numbers and things are probably gonna be more expensive. But this is the best information that I have at this time. I've also applied for a needs assessment update grant through DOLA. They've granted that. It's a 50% match. It's a $45,000 grant, so we're looking at a match of $22,500. And I know there's been confusion about the second award. DOLA had contacted me and asked, can you think of anything you can spend some money on, because we had another community who fell out of the program. This will be a totally separate grant. This money came through the state. It's not ARPA funds like we're getting with the first grants. That's federal funding. And so it was actually a phone call and a letter. And that's what's going towards the purchase of 619 Elm Street, and then the county is paying the difference. At this point in time, it's $372,000. But we're in negotiations for inspection issues. So, that dollar amount is not really included in the ask. My ask for $300,000 is a conservative ask for what's going on, for the programming we want to be able to offer, and to make this organization bring to the community what we would like it to do. So, that's my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Do we have this somewhere?
Yes. Yes, you have all of them.
Yeah, it's all in the packet. If you,
Oh, it's
go-
in the packet.
yeah, if you go to the end of the Tabor Opera House
45,
materials.
46, 47.
Oh, it's not in here.
No,
No, it's in the packet materials that were part of the agenda.
And the county is here to honor Christian's request to have a space to have a joint discussion. I don't know that timing wise, I've tried to express that I thought maybe we needed to have this outside of your budget time. However, I think with budget constraints, Lori indicated that we needed to keep this slot and do the presentation. So I want to be respectful of your time and also open up the opportunity for further discussions if that's something that everyone is looking to.
Laura, you've been over this budget with Jackie, is that correct?
Yes.
Where are you on this?
Well, so I had an opportunity to crunch some numbers with, our new finance director Hewlett today. And what I was hoping is that we could find out a way to, have the hit not be as hard in 2024, but it doesn't look like we will have much leftover accommodations tax money to help fund this ask, because really, you only really have, if you want to do this, you only have two options: put it in 2024 or try and put some of it in 2023. So Crystal and I crunched some numbers, and we don't have obviously final numbers for Q3 or Q4 of the accommodations tax, which is what we had been using to, fund housing affordability projects. So it looks like the majority of this ask is going to need to be in 2024. Maybe $20,000 of it could be leftover 2A money that we could put, because the concept is, so if you look back at the budget, Exhibit A to the Regional Housing Authority, IGA. So if you look at the budget there, it's under the city contribution for 2023, you've got the housing director contribution at $70,000. That's Jackie's salary. You go down to city projected leftover 2A, that was just a projection, right? So for education, it's my understanding that the city's intent was whatever the leftover 2A money was, that would go to the Regional Housing Authority.
It's totally about it.
Right, so that 2A money is the lodging tax money that's collected from overnight rentals, whether they're hotels or short-term rentals. That money by the ballot measure can only be spent on really two things. One, a portion of it goes to the tourism panel, But the rest of it, by the ballot language, needs to be spent on affordable housing. So it's my understanding the city council's policy and the vote on that was that whatever money was left over after we paid the housing director contribution and what other expenses out of that, the leftover 2A money would go to the Regional Housing Authority. And we projected when we put this together, it was $70,000. It will be a little bit more than that, so that's good news for Jackie. We just ran some projected numbers today, and we don't have great data because we don't have Q3 and Q4. We're really hoping Q3 is good. So we're kind of hoping that it's so far we've collected about Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong tab. That was 20. It's like, what? $142,000. And, so if I click, so that's Q1 and 2. For 2022, it was $215,000. So we're hoping that we can collect approximately another $140,000. If you run all the math, that, would be potentially another $20,000. So that where I am on this is the majority of this ask is gonna need to come from 2024 budget.
That's a question.
Dave, please go ahead.
I don't really have a question. I just had a comment, but it is not the appropriate time to bring that up right now because we're in the middle of a discussion and presentation by Lori.
So, when Jackie and I met, I mean, the numbers are hard, but the grant match, obviously, if you don't have the matching funds, you don't get the grant. That's just the bottom line. And so I think the math is pretty close. So if you look at, the Lake County, the City of Leadville DOLA incentive grant, the match is 624,304. I think half of that is, and I assume we're splitting it. I just erased it. It is a little bit less than the 324. I think it's about 312, but it's close enough. And then, the additional staff, there was, Jackie, I thought you had a breakdown of the staff money.
Yeah, so it's on that spreadsheet,
Which one?
So the one that just talked about, CRHA revenue 2023, and it's got the breakout between the city and the county, and then down at the bottom, I have additional staff.
Oh, but I thought you were breaking that out by position. Didn't you have that broken out by position?
So what we had talked about, and really it was, we talked about we're gonna have so much work coming our way with the project in terms of project management and property management and all of the things. We talked about, perhaps having a deputy and having an administrator, an assistant kind of, role. And so a $40,000 and a $70,000 position, is what the 110, so that doesn't include benefits. And then, for that matter, the county has been paying, my benefits, as well as, there's some things in the budget. When we created the budget, for example, the insurance, we had 4 insurance dues subscriptions, $1,000 in the original budget. And, the insurance alone for the housing authority is $4,500. So there were things that we just, brand new organization that we're just trying to figure out.
So one of the things that Jackie and I sat down, because the one in the last presentation, the council wanted more detail as to what the actual numbers were. And so that $110,000, I just wanted to make sure you were explaining how that was broken up for everybody. It's actually 2 positions, one at 40 and one at 70. And you actually have position descriptions that you drafted for those.
Yeah, Christy was very generous to address them as well as, county staff, so I have 2 sets of job descriptions, and just depending on, what this project looks like going forward. Well, we have something to work on, we have something to work on.
Amy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just originally wanted to thank Jackie. This was really exactly the kind of breakdown that I was looking for originally, and I appreciate the time that must have gone into this. It's very helpful.
And whenever y'all think it's appropriate, Councilmember Hill, who couldn't be here, had reviewed all the materials for tonight's meeting and did have basically two paragraphs. One was about the Regional Housing Authority and one was discussion on the police department, but I think since we'll have that discussion when he'll be here, he
Can you give
can.
us input on the regional authority, please?
Yes, I can just read it. It's only a paragraph. Hello, Lori. I've reviewed the budget as it pertains to tonight's work session. I don't have any major issues with any of what is being discussed tonight, with the exception of the Housing Authority request. Based on the info in the packet, I am still confused about the ask of the Housing Authority. I thought the RHA was asking for an additional $300,000 for 2024 to cover grant matches and additional staff, which I don't really see reflected in the data that has been presented. If that is the request, then I am on board with that. I think the city wants and needs to prioritize housing and that the RHA is critical to getting housing projects done. Jackie is currently tasked with doing everything, including oversight of the DOLA grant, pinpointing more grants and funding opportunities, developing RFQs and RFPs for current projects, acting as the realtor for land deals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think the position of housing director has proven to be overwhelming for one person and desperately needs support of additional staff to be effective. It is evident to me that if the city wants to emphasize the importance of our housing needs, then we are obligated to step up and accommodate those funding requests, even if that means going into the city's quote reserves end quote to make that happen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask a dumb question? Basically, we're front loading all this, and when units actually get built, that money is gonna come back to the housing authority, right?
That is a great question. So here is the situation. Once we do the infrastructure, as we're doing the infrastructure, we'll put out a bid for developers to come in and tell us what they could do on these sites. We're hoping to see 20 units. We're hoping to see for sale units or rental units. We can use both. We can use everything. The issue being that interest rates are so high that it may not be the right time for sale units. It may not be an affordable option for people to be able to do that. So then if we're looking at rental units, then we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for that. With the for sale units, the idea was we could pre-sell those, and then that would help us with the cost of building the units. So if we're estimating $500 a square foot, and let's just make it easy math, each unit's 1,000 square feet. We're hoping to build 20 units, that's $10 million it's gonna cost above and beyond this infrastructure horizontal cost. So the developer would come in with capital stacking, it's way more complicated than my brain can absorb. They have to be very creative, they can take funding from different places, from DOH, private funding, it's very complicated. The hope was that if we did for sale units, that it wouldn't be expensive for us. If we do rentals, it's gonna be more complicated. All the units are going to be restricted in terms of who qualifies, and that's a condition of the DOLA grant. So, deed restrictions, AMI limitations. So we don't know. We'll know more once we put it out and get responses.
And of course, because of the DOLA grants, being sitting at around 100%, I think we said 140 with them, right?
So 140 for sale
Yeah.
and 80% for rental.
So 140 for full sale, it still puts us in a weird position where that gap funding is gonna be more than normal just because of the interest rates and also the cost of building going up since our last project, with JV Housing Trust. So the gap funding for it's going to be essential. Gap funding being the funding that's needed to make those units affordable.
Affordable at what level?
140% AMI. It can range really, like, we can go up to 200 as long as we have some 100 units or et cetera, but an average of 140% AMI.
Okay,
So
thank you. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah. Regardless of that point, I don't know if anyone else has any other discussion items on the budget in of itself before I kind of, not fully shift gears, but kind of talk about why I invited,
Before you shift gears.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Based on this, I'm seeing a lot of numbers. It's hard to look at these numbers and try and figure out where 2A money dovetails in with these numbers. So, anyway, nonetheless, Lori, in your conversations, what is the 2024 load over and above?
Well, it would be nice to see if we had a full year of 2023 numbers. So as we said, it was 215,000 in 2022. We saw the sales tax numbers were fantastic for the summer. Lodging wasn't tracking. I think Tim Hill pointed that out, that lodging wasn't tracking as high.
Well, I
so-
think it's also, some people pay quarterly,
Mhm.
so you see those.
So the lodging tax is paid quarterly. And so I think what Finance Director Hula and I talked about is she was gonna try and crunch some more numbers and see what we had for Q3. But I'm hoping that, I mean, it would be fantastic if we hit,
Let's
you know,
send
2
you
points.
third quarter numbers. Estimated third quarter numbers. I sent them to you.
Did you
The
send?
sales tax summary.
Oh, no, I mean, it for lodging.
Yeah, I sent you that.
Okay. So I think it would be optimistic to say if 2024 would be $300,000, that would be really optimistic. That's a lot more than 2023. But
What we also see is a lag in payments. We see people
Right.
at the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
It takes us the next quarter to get some of the people to pay. It's just the nature of,
Right.
of what we're
But
doing.
you know it's coming.
And the enforcement, you do, but when you cut it off, like end of year, when you say, okay, into January, we're done, we may get more money, you know, from the fourth quarter, but we're done. That'll fold into the first quarter of the next year.
But you get the last quarter of the previous year and the first quarter of this year. So it all was kind of.
So the question, I guess, for Jackie is, I mean, I think some of this is ramp up for purposes of hiring the additional staff. That may take a while, but when do you have to have that grant match?
So the grant match, I think we're fine to go into 24 because it's a reimbursable grant. So we have to spend the money first. So we have to get them in contract before we can spend the money. So I think we're in 24 anyway.
But early 24 or late 24?
Early 24. Because I'm anxious to spend this money.
Is that against the 1.6? Is that what we're talking about?
It's actually, if you look at the spreadsheet, it's 1.8.
How does it affect all this if you're more money that was requested comes through? There was a grant for, I understood it, the Regional Housing Authority,
Oh, the $800,000 of the congressionally directed spending.
correctly
So
directed.
that's future money, and that was.
It's consistent all, right?
Right, and that's, so,
But how will that affect these numbers?
it'll be great.
Ah, okay, good.
You see how expensive this project's gonna be,
Yeah.
we're gonna be having a shortfall anyway. What we asked for with that grant, was basically, additional horizontal costs, because we don't have Excel included in this. This is just water and sewer. So we can spend that, and I think they cut that, request, so we had requested.
Yep.
I think 1.7 for both the senator's money and for national, project spending, and so I think it's down to like 800. It's still moving forward, it's 1 of 15 projects. It's moving-
Yeah,
which is huge.
Patterson's office said they put it through, yeah.
Yeah, which is huge, I mean, 1 of 15 out of the whole, I mean, that's great. So-
Okay. Sarah, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
Excuse me, I just want to say too, perspective that, I don't anticipate that having authority, we don't know, that chance to get that money back, but. Sorry, the county But the county's also talked about in terms of those projects, but the potential to create a buy down for a program for buying down interest rates so that homeownership can happen. Because those two models of homeownership and rental look very different, and the rental would probably look like even more staff to the RHA and contributions from both entities manage something in perpetuity. So not a, I don't think it's like one's a lot cheaper and better in the long run.
What do you think the per unit buy down would be against interest rates?
Oh, I last time I did finance, I don't know. I don't even know what those numbers.
Okay,
look like
just
today.
curiosity
It's like
question.
$2,000 point, what,
Okay.
years ago, but who knows what that looks like.
And I want to be clear, that's making a huge assumption that we can pre-sell, because, just speaking from Shady Housing Trust perspective, when I work with them, it is a very, very difficult thing to pre-sell units, no matter what the AMI is, especially in our county. It is especially difficult, because of how new this type of system is to our community members. So there's a lot of trust and a lot of time that has to be put into building that relationship, especially between the Regional Housing Authority and community members. And that isn't taken into account into those same budget, because it's time and it's money of staff time. So.
Do you think it would make it easier, the Shady Housing Trust is kind of capped out at 100% AMI.
Yeah.
So would it be easier to find people who would pre-buy in the 140 to 200?
Sure,
AMI range?
for sure, those units will probably be easier to sell overall, but when we start speaking about like, are we offering this in equitable ways, when we start really getting into some trouble, because if it doesn't reflect our current demographics, we run into legal trouble and having to run those funds back, and obviously that's a big risk to the county. So just speaking purely from a equitable point of view, and from a this has to represent the community and the demographics of the community. While yes, that is true that we could get lots of buyers, lots of those buyers are not going to be lucky. So it's important to keep that in mind as well.
Thank you.
Obviously, whole different dynamic for rent.
So I don't think I got an answer to my question. What is the load in 2024? And this is projected as a 2-year city and 2-year county obligation. What is the load to this budget over and above 2A? And I know 2A is a little bit up in the air, but you know, if we assume 70 and 70.
Well, I think,
$1,000.
I think well, first 70 may need to go up a little bit because Jackie cost of living increase, and the second $78,000, I think, is low. So I would say the ask over the load of 2A is potentially for the whole year, close to $50,000.
That's all.
Well, so if you think oh no, because I forgot to factor in the tourism panel portion.
That's beside the point. I mean,
Yeah.
these numbers are showing, they're showing the city 2-year contribution of $380,000. Is that with 2A? Is it without 2A? What are we talking about here?
Well, I think what we're doing is, I think we're stepping away from this for 2024.
What do you think?
Yeah, so this budget that is originally.
Yeah.
Approved by City and County, so it does include $2A, in your $380,000 2-year commitment. So it identifies like the 2A housing director contribution, over 2 years, and then it has, projected 2A left over again, so you can see those line items.
So I guess the answer to your question is, for purposes of the budget discussion for 2024, we are upping the ask from what was attached to the IGA. So and we're gonna pay at least the $100,000 county match that's on this spreadsheet. We're gonna pay this in 2023, whatever this year is.
I thought we already did.
No, we just got the invoices for it. So the $100,000 grant match we have not paid, and we will pay the 70,000 for Jackie's salary, and then the 70,000. So that's 240,000 in 2023. We project that taking all that out and the tourism panel share, that there's potentially, based upon our guess, by the end of the year will be an additional $20,000 that would go to the Regional Housing Authority. Could be more.
I get it. Back to my original question, I still
Yeah.
feel like we haven't gotten to the point where I'm comfortable with what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And it is, we know 2A money exists, and you said one might be higher, although it really can't be. And the other one may be, higher because we're expecting for the residual to be more than $70,000. I get all that. Okay, that's fine. And so then, after all is said and done.
Yep.
What are we gonna pay to the Regional Housing Authority over and above that out of this budget?
Out of the general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not the general fund, I have money in the budget for this. It's sitting, I've got it in the budget.
Okay, how much did you project then? I guess
Well, I
that's the
put in
question.
$130,000 based on our conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the number is.
Well, so what I'm gonna have to say is, like I said, our new finance director, we sat and crunched the numbers today. So, I think we're gonna have to think about, actually have her be able to calculate Q3, and then we'll estimate Q4. No, but it is, you're asking what is it over and above leftover 2A? I need to know what leftover 2A is to say what
I
is
think
over
the
and above.
ask here is like, what is the final number that the final ask? My understanding is it's $240,000, right? The ask from the
Total ask.
Over and above what we've already committed to.
So the 240 is what he committed to. The ask is for an additional 300,000.
Okay, so the 300,000 number still stands. That's what I was trying to find on these budgets too, but I couldn't find it alongside with the mayor.
Well,
I think that's
I have to
what,
tell you, I find these numbers, I need to spend some time on it because I find them very confusing.
cause so generally speaking, the ask is for 300, that excluding whatever we get from 2A, it doesn't matter, that'll be deducted at the end. But the general ask is 300, above what we've already committed, so that what we've already committed is there, plus the 300 that's being asked. Now,
Wait, so. Okay, so that actually, so you're asking for $300,000 in addition to Jackie's salary and the projected $70,000 leftover 2A.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm looking at these and I'm not getting that, I'm sorry. You and I need to spend some time on these numbers, looking at these numbers, that doesn't make sense to me. And I'm happy to, I want to support this, we don't misunderstand me, but the numbers have to make sense to me too. So, we have to build housing, we just have to.
and then to break it down, the numbers that we do have, $110,000 of that is gonna go to staffing of the additional ask.
That's fine,
So-
this shows 120,000 in these numbers right here.
Right, so those are all,
Plus-
so this is
plus
our old,
residents.
so this is our old budget. I think the right side's county, or left side's city from my memory.
No, it's 23 and 24.
Oh, okay. Okay, so. In addition to those numbers, there's still the ask for $110,000. So that all stays the same, plus we're adding $110,000 of staffing, and I think that's just purely for paying the staff members, not benefits or anything like that. Jackie kind of mentioned that. And in addition to that, another 290,000 is coming, from my understanding, as a grant match. Where that money goes, I'd assume, is to the infrastructure. Is that correct, Jackie?
We have a restaurant, I'm sorry.
So basically, just to recap the ask, 110,000 of that is staffing. 290,000 of that is for the grant match used in the infrastructure.
That would be 400,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
So
Yeah,
100,000.
so the total,
Sorry,
look at the, if you look at the one spreadsheet, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So. If you look, under the difference, the grant matching, so you can follow that across. And so $100,000 is your obligation based on the original budget.
When you say additional staff, that's over and above Jackie's current pay?
so that's the two staff. members that they're
Yeah.
speaking.
2 more.
So this would be in additional staff, the ask is that we, hire a, admin person and a direct assistant to Jackie, basically, and 70,000 for the direct assistant and 40,000 for the admin.
So you're asking the city for all of that or half of the additional staff?
So I'm looking at, if you look down at the bottom of this one spreadsheet, so I've got, the $828,804 is, what I'm looking for. The county is paying the $372 for their purchase of 619, Elm Street. They're also funding up to $380,000 worth of land. So what I'm asking for is to cover the additional grant match for that first grant for the 2 sites and Plan Harrison Ball Field that was short $624,000. So we initially budgeted 324,000. We initially budgeted 300,000 in city and county, 296 for that, and we needed an additional 324,304. So I'm asking for that. I'm asking for additional staff.
So, hold on. Is that inclusive to the 300 that you're asking for? So basically, just to run down, you're asking $300,000 of this city council. 110,000 of that staff, 190,000 of that is in the grant match, correct?
You can look at it. I came with $300,000. I'm like, I need $828,804. I'm gonna ask the city for $300,000. So, yes.
So that is the portion that we are paying for the grant match. The total match that we end up needing is this last number of 824,000. So the ask of you to supplement this is for 300 from us. And that's all based off of the change of properties, change of strategies, as well as how much money we're getting.
Okay, so me trying to look at these budget numbers doesn't matter. I mean, if I get this correct, okay, good, now I'm clear.
We need money. It's expensive to build housing. It's expensive for this to be successful. We've all put a ton of time into this and we need it to be successful. We need to make a difference. So yes, we need more money.
Okay. Does anyone have any additional?
Took us a long time to get to that number.
So, I mean, it's just pretty, so the total 2024 ask for the Regional Housing Authority is 300,000 plus 70,000 for,
440,000.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So assuming that, well, I was gonna break it out because we know that 300 is Jackie's ask. Over and above her own salary, which is 70, and over and above the leftover 2A, which we projected at $70,000, but could be more than that. So the total ask is,
Jackie's salary goes up in 2024, the 70 is based on.
it doesn't actually unless we agree to do that.
It doesn't, I'm not allowed an increase according to the IGA.
So under the IGA, it's 70,000 a year. We can, one of Jackie's presentations touched on that she would love for us to update that IGA and include a cost of living. So it doesn't automatically include it, but we could include it. So it's, yeah, it's 440,000 is the
Okay.
total ask.
Thank you.
Is that the answer to your question?
That was the answer to my question. Thank you.
You just needed to ask him 6 more times.
So I think you touched on this earlier, that 300,000 is stretching the budget.
Yeah.
But we definitely could take it out of reserve.
We have committed, we're gonna make this happen, so,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
With
As long as
that,
that's okay with Christian.
yes, okay. With, With that out of the way, I wanted to touch on why I invited also the commissioners, so not to this meeting necessarily, in general, to have a discussion with the city, because a lot of this boils down to staff time and where that staff time is being used. It's my understanding, Jackie, that you have worked closely with the county for some of these other projects for the other grant that was awarded to the county. Now, I had a hard time understanding that as a regional housing authority member, and I'm speaking purely from the board perspective. Mostly because I never really got an idea. This is a huge project that's going to take up time, that, like, if you are looped in to it too heavily, is going to take up time from regional housing authority stuff. Now, this can be regional housing authority stuff, but that ask was never formally asked. And it feels like that happens often, where it's a project is generally asked to, a favor from you, and it's okay to do favors, of course, especially since you're in the building, it's pretty easy. But if we're going to be funding this project, both from the city and the county's perspective, and really from the taxpayers' perspective, it makes sense to me that we outline exactly what it is that the regional housing can do, and projects that it will take on, and projects it won't take on. Purely from a perspective of what resources we have. We have limited resources. This $300,000 ask is a huge ask for the city to lift. And if, we continue to ask, I think it's appropriate for us as a board to make sure that we are utilizing as much of this funds in the most optimal way for these projects specifically. Doesn't mean that we can't take on new projects or anything, but there has to be a formal way to go about that. And that's part of what I felt like was lacking with some of these projects, especially like the newly bought house. I'm not against it. In fact, I would have happily approved that had it been brought to the board, but that never was brought to the board. And if we're going to be giving such high amounts of money for these projects, there has to be a formal process. Even if it's, hey, look, this project is happening really quickly, we need to get an email out that says, hey, we need to take this on, otherwise we're going to lose some valuable housing and like staff. There was never that formal discussion of this is a project that you're going to take on. And as an ED of an organization, it's really important that we protect your time to make sure it is centered around the regional housing authority. The city has not leaned on your position as much because we're trying to manage it on our own, because we don't have that ask. We haven't had that ask for 809 Spruce, for example. We hired Amy Tate rather than go to the regional housing authority. Now, obviously, that doesn't have to be the way that we go forward, but in such a new organization, it's important to me that we respect that time and we try to find other avenues to accomplish some of our other goals as city council members. And I would also appreciate if that was also reflected in the county. Now, the reason why this is discussion is because obviously that housing that you guys bought is incredibly important to our community, and Jackie should play a supportive role in that. Except how is my question, right? How is she going to play a supportive role? This is also a general discussion of placement of Jackie and generally like where she will exist within our community, especially as we move forward, and especially if we're going to have rentals. There has to be a neutral area. It doesn't mean that it's not owned by the city or the county. It's just not in offices of city or county. There has to be a neutral area where people can access that resource of Jackie or whoever owns and manages the rental units. All this is to say that we have to have a really big discussion around general operating of the regional housing authority. And as the two biggest contributors being the city and the county, I think it's important that we respect the money that's being given and we're using it for projects from the regional housing authority. I would love for this conversation to be facilitated by someone neutral. That's why I asked Grayson to be here today. And hopefully in a future conversation, because it's late and I don't know how much we want to stay here till 9. My ask is that we have a facilitated conversation about what this looks like, what we as a city would like for the regional housing authority to do on our end, and what you, the county, would like to do on your end from the regional housing authority, and what the expectations are with these funds that we are using, right? We need to establish those expectations of, if you guys are gonna be funding X amount, your expectations from the Regional Housing Authority are they do this thing, right? And how we process new projects, both from the city, the county, and the community. Because I'm sure there will be projects, like, for example, I'm thinking of the advocates specifically that could potentially come to us for projects, or gateway project that could be something that comes to us. Or even more closely to the city, we also have the 7th Street project with those, and the annex, that is something that would potentially have to go through the Regional Housing Authority. So all that said and done, I want to reschedule a meeting, use this time to schedule a meeting that works for the most of us. It doesn't have to work for everyone, but just so we have a facilitated talk as to what the expectations are and what the time usage of Jackie's time, and especially the new admin's time that will be coming in, if we're going to be funding that. I think that is crucial to build that trust and relationship between each other, so that we all have a good understanding of how this is working, and there isn't a big question mark as to, like, where is this funding coming from? Why is this project part of Jackie's role? Why is this project not part of Jackie's role? Just to lay it all out, and so what we know we are funding as city council. So that's kind of my general ask and what I would like to see from the work session. So. Does anyone want to lead with a specific date in mind? Jackie, you're probably the most important person for that conversation, so do you have dates that work for you specifically?
Days, night.
I think it can be whatever you need it to be.
We could do it at the next, day board meeting. We haven't heard back from the consultant, so we had strategic planning, on the 11th, and they're supposed to report out to us at that meeting. But we could do it then. Yeah,
What is that?
that is Wednesday, November 15th, and it's at 5:30 to 7:30.
And I still would like a neutral facilitator, so Grayson, I mean, if you guys have a better neutral facilitator, by all means, I'd be happy to. I picked Grayson specifically because he has well knowledge of what's going on with the Regional Housing Authority, involved in the housing coalition, and he's already doing some work for the Regional Housing Authority with websites, so it just made sense, and facilitating.
Okay, you're getting ahead of ourselves. 15th, is that a palatable date for enough people to make this work? Okay, and
Depends on
where,
what time you're talking.
Yeah,
about,
what-
because I have
Our
a-
meeting is at 5:30 to 7:30.
I'm sorry, I'm having quite a bit of trouble hearing the people who are off the table. What date are you talking about, please?
November 15th, our regularly scheduled Regional Housing Authority meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And 5,
and where is that held?
AMAX room at the library.
Is that gonna be big enough?
Yeah, we can do CMC too, if that's more comfortable.
It's up to you guys. I mean, I'm just asking.
and I'm sorry, 5:30?
5:30 is this time it starts, yes.
For now, I'm gonna put it at the library.
Sure.
Yeah. It should be big.
I can be there.
Dana, could you be there? Any commissioners that works for you? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Cool, so it sounds like that's a good date, and obviously our Regional Housing Authority members should be there as well, our open meeting members, so that will be a good inclusion of those community members as well.
Is there a virtual?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
If it works,
And
if not, it's usually recorded, and we can.
Yes, and we will make sure that it is working.
Okay,
So
thank you. Time check, 8:35.
for council members, I will just, so you all have it in your inbox and top of your inbox, I'll recirculate the intergovernmental agreement that we signed, which spells out powers, duties, authorities, executive director, board, so we can have that.
Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, let's hide you back there somewhere. Okay. We talked about going ahead and at least having a conversation on the police department budget.
No, not budget, just an update
Okay,
on police department,
okay, thank you.
because we're saving the budget for
Gotcha.
discussion and broader discussion on the, assuming, did everyone say that was okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will change that schedule and put it up tomorrow.
Okay.
No, I gotta be in Kansas City tomorrow, so I'll change that and put it out Thursday.
Okay. Okay, so, let's see, update police department, Chief Chavez obviously is, as of Monday, working for the town of Severance, helping them out, and so, in transition. So the acting chief is, Dan Breyer. He's been a sergeant here for many, many years, has been through many transitions and has helped keep the wheels on the bus from a compliance standpoint and also institutional knowledge standpoint. So he is the acting chief as we short, medium, and long-term plan for the police department. So the most immediate thing is he is the acting chief. The mayor and I had a meeting with the entire staff yesterday and talked to them about that and had Chief Breyer there. The sheriff has agreed to be a point of contact on developing or emergent situations where Sergeant Breyer couldn't appear on scene. This is not really a big change from what has been happening with the partnership between the sheriff's department and the police department. So Sheriff Speckman and I had a meeting last week and he's graciously agreed to be the point person for operations matters that cannot be handled by an immediate supervisor, which would be Sergeant Ortega. So the chain of command right now is the same for the police department. They are to go to their immediate supervisor with initial questions. So that would be Sergeant Ortega. For operational questions, it would be our administrative supervisor, Perla Flores. For administrative matters, we also have Joanna Lopez, who's our administrative worker as an assistant as well in the police department. So chain of command, immediate chain of command has not changed for the police department. For emergent operations questions, the next point of contact would be Sheriff Speckman. The department is the chain of notification is essentially Acting Chief Breyer, Sheriff Speckman, and then me for emergent situations. So for example, we've had two fatal car accidents over the summer. We had a barricaded suspect incident. Those types of situations, they know the notification chain of command is that for operational situations. For administrative matters that cannot be handled by Supervisor Flores, she is to contact me. So we're all pitching in a little bit extra for, this is the immediate plan for the short term. We're, short, medium, and long term, that is the short term plan. And the staff is fine with that. They're clear on that. That's not a huge change for them because they've been working closely with the sheriff's department for a long time. Anyway, the medium term plan and the long term plan is one of the things we want to talk to you all about on November 8th. So, Sheriff Speckman and I have been talking about, and the mayor and I have been talking about some of the options for the law enforcement within our community. And the number one thing, of course, we all agree is we need to be able to serve our community. And what is the best way forward to do that? So in talking with Chief Chavez and Sheriff Speckman, I think it seems like we have option A, like potentially option B, 1 and 2, and option C. So option A would be rebuild the police department, build it back up. So if you've all noticed, there's an advertisement out for chief of police. I have received numerous applications for that already, and it has only been out since Friday. So, one person is not qualified on paper, but others are currently chief of police in other communities of similar size. So we are receiving qualified applicants. We are looking at potential incentives to, bring police officers in. So in a simple, we'll get into this longer, but the simple update is option A, rebuild the department. I'm gonna skip to option C because that's the other end of the spectrum, and that would be completely dissolving the police department and completely merging it with the sheriff's department. So that would be LPD does not exist any longer, and it is, there are no longer police officers, police department, and it becomes completely part of the sheriff's department. And so those are sort of the polar extremes. Option B in the middle is some type of contract situation with the sheriff's office for some types of services. And that is what Sheriff Speckman and I have been meeting and talking about, and we need to figure out how that might look. We wanted to start with the staff. So we had a staff meeting, the mayor and I had a staff meeting with the police department. And I think there's a lot of pride in the Leadville Police Department. But there's also an understanding that there may be benefits to combining resources. And what does that look like? And so why we've asked for that work session beyond 8th is we need to do some more legwork about what that looks like. Are the positives and negatives of each, what are the positive and negatives of each option? What are the cost savings? What are the potential? I think, options B and C would require a lot of work and a lot of thought. And so that's where we are as far as figuring out the future path forward. I think that my impression is the Leadville Police Department is a long way from where it was a year ago. Morale-wise, staff-wise, in yesterday's staff meeting, the staff actually spent a lot of time thanking each other for stepping up and being partners throughout this transition. It has been a bumpy road for that staff, and they've hung together. And I don't know, Mayor, you can weigh in on this. I saw them a lot happier than a year ago, and a lot.
You're absolutely correct. One of the things I took out of the meeting was even the limited staff that we have now are really working well together with each other. They're working well with the sheriff's office. We couldn't ask for a better scenario except twice as many people.
Right.
A chief and four more officers. That would be the ideal, and continue that pride that they're exhibiting right now and the working relationship with the sheriff's office. To me, that would be the ideal. However, we don't have the ideal. So they are doing a great job, and they're quite proud of it with what we have right now. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, and so one of the things about the schedule and coverage is, we're short-staffed right now. 2 officers volunteered to just cover nights so that we would have 24-hour coverage. So we do have LPD 24-hour coverage, and it's lean, but we're covering it. And it was interesting. One of the officers commented that right now, there is a sort of a distinction without a difference, in a sense that the partnership is working so well with the sheriff's department that if there's a call that comes out, they'll notice there's a call for the sheriff's department and, check in with them, see if they need help. Same with the sheriff's department and LPD. So it's a good partnership. It's working really well. I credit that to Sheriff Speckman and Interim Chief Chavez. They had a fantastic working relationship and did a lot of legwork. So that's where we are. Options A, B, versions of B, B1 and 2, and then option C. So it just needs some time to develop what that looks like. And what I'd like to present to you all in the packet is, as best we can in the time that we have, which is not much time considering it's the 24th, all the positive and negatives we can think of for those various options. And then lay it out and have a good discussion about it.
When you say that the officers are volunteering to work at night, are they working double shifts, or they just chose to work the night shift?
They chose to work the night shift as opposed to the day shift.
So what they're doing is, night shift is 4 days and 4 days with 1 day overlap. And the same thing with day shift, 4 days and 4 days with 1 day of overlap. And
are you short-staffed during the day?
No, they only have one person. I mean, but then they're working closely with the sheriff's office. So right this second, it's working frankly better than I thought it would.
So our part-time officer is working full-time is the answer to that question. And has been
For years.
for a while.
Yeah, he's okay with that.
They've been great. So that's where we are. So short term, we've got it covered. Medium and long term, I think we need to figure out what the path forward is and what it looks like. And there's other option, the answer is you could look at a contracting situation for the medium term as we figure out what we would like to do long term.
What I said to Lori is right now, I think we should be very proactive in terms of making sure we keep the sheriff's office whole. In terms of costs,
Yeah.
we have kind of an agreement that once a year we'll revisit it, that we should wait for that. If they need to have a share of the cost of what they're bearing, we should absolutely be very quick to.
Yeah, and to clarify, we have a intergovernmental agreement with the sheriff's department, so we provide joint services on calls and stuff like that. We weren't going to nickel and dime each other. That was one of the purposes of that agreement, is really to have the understanding in writing.
But then we also, we would revisit it every December and see, was that, relationship even, or is there, something to be accounted for?
Right, and that's exactly right. We're gonna track that and figure out if there needed to be a compensation system, because both departments agreed, we don't wanna sit there and have to calculate hours and bill each other. It would be fun. But what we have said is, look, if they're completely covering a shift, then we should moving forward look at compensation for that. So that's where we are.
Any questions from anybody? I'm amazed it's open for minutes. I'm quite serious. And I guess I couldn't be prouder of this tiny now police department and the attitude they're taking into this. So it's actually nice to see.
Yeah, and they're just as interested to explore the positives and negatives of the options as well. I mean, we didn't get any. We got open-mindedness about the whole process, so.
It sounds like, Sheriff Speckman is also open-minded about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's putting on the cell to merge. I mean, I think his preference would probably be, option C or B. But his preference would be to merge
I
the
just
departments.
making sure that we have that line, obviously without it, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and he's agreed to be present for the discussion on the 8th to answer any questions. And I'm sure there'll be a lot
He
of
was at the
questions.
staff meeting in Cincinnati.
Yeah, he was at the staff meeting as well. Yeah. So,
Commissioners can say what I think, is to say the commissioners, I think there's been in a lot of discussions with the sheriff Speckman as well, and supportive of what he is saying in those meetings. And the pathway that he's exploring. So
I think the 8th will be an interesting conversation. I think that we need to be prepared to make some decision. Soon, we can't languish on this. There's a criticality.
yeah, I don't know that we're gonna make a decision on the 8th, but I do think it would be unfair to the applicants and to be putting out requests, for people to apply for a position that's not gonna exist anymore. So I think it doesn't have to be a decision on the 8th, but we shouldn't drag it out.
When you said you had applicants, is that 1 or 2 viable applicants, or is it 12 viable applicants? So far?
Well, let's see.
And is it for the officers as well as the chief, or just the chief?
Chief position,
Do you have
so,
applicants for the officers too, because there are 2 open positions there.
no,
Actually, in this budget, we have 4 open positions.
But I think announcements are out for 2, right?
Oh, that may be true.
I can't remember, I think we said, the announcement was officers, I don't think we put a number on the posting.
Okay.
I can tell you how many applicants there are. I don't wanna jinx anything about the officers, just don't make me jinx anything. We have some interest in that as well. So let's see. Seven,
For chief,
correct.
and how many for officers?
I'm not gonna jinx it. If the application is potentially on its way, so I'm not gonna jinx anything. So,
Okay, so potential.
the thing we talked about with the officers is, you know, how do we compete? How do we compete with Summit and Eagle County, and what are some of the things? So they had some good ideas. You know, we just reposted the streets position and offered a little incentive for applicants on that. I think that we're at a place where sometimes we may need to offer some incentives. Before he left, the chief sent me, North Las Vegas had a posting for officers, and don't know if I'm gonna get it right, but they were offering a $30,000 to $40,000 signing bonus. I think that's amazing for them to be able to offer that.
Let's do that.
We're gonna talk about this budget later, Mayor. But what I'm saying is, we are looking, I think I think our pay is competitive, but we may need to look at some other incentives. And one of the things the officer suggested is just working with some of the local recreational places that are nearby and offering passes. So we may need to offer some types of incentives. There is a potential applicant for the police officer position, but I don't want just jinx anything. But 7 for chief. And of those, at first glance, 1 is clearly not qualified. The other 6 are either a current chief or a high level command officer. So on paper, potentially qualified.
Positive.
Let's turn 4 of them into police.
Yeah. Kind of one that's not qualified into a police officer.
I do not think that person is qualified to be a police
Police
officer.
officer either. Just a random.
I think they're in security services for retail. So I do not believe they're post qualified. Could we train them potentially, but on paper right now, we are looking for post qualified would be ideal. Otherwise, it's a year. I mean, really, it's a year. So if you want help, post qualified's better.
Any last thoughts or questions? Anything from the peanut gallery?
That the end of your meeting or?
We're about to end the meeting.
I would like, sorry, a different topic, I would like to add that the county would like to also have probably a work session with the city on a greater financial health and financial planning conversation as we go into all these agreements and partnerships. We'd really like to outline kind of the history and our perspective of how each of us inherited these organizational scenarios and how that's shaped the relationship between the city and the county, and how that influences our decisions moving forward, and how we maybe another chance to better illustrate our big ideas and long-term thoughts on our financial health and planning in light of approaching decision making on the Justice Center in particular. And we can some outline of some things we would love to touch on.
Do you have a thought about when that might happen? We're all pretty booked up between now and the end of the year.
We hadn't come up with a date,
Okay.
but
Were you looking for it for this year, or would it be open to beginning of next year?
well, I don't know, what do you think? I think by the end of the year would have been ideal.
Right. Okay.
By before budgets are approved, yeah.
I'm not sure how that can happen. I mean, honestly, we just added 1 meeting to our every week meeting, and that's not even including, planning and zoning and HPC and regional housing authority. I don't know how we do that before the budget season is over. Unless somebody has a really good idea about when that could happen.
Wants to wake up at 6 a.m.
We already do that.
Oh.
Some are so way ahead of that.
Right. Sarah, would you be willing to just send out some ideas?
Yeah,
That would at least give us something to, get our arms around and think about.
yeah, we can draft a memo, for your consideration.
All right, thank you.
I think it's fair to say most of us have day jobs, so it'll probably be afternoon oriented for city council.
We'll see. I'd like to see what they propose.
Okay.
All right,
Well, I was gonna say, we can also just see what Tuesday there is. If we can, because we might have, there might be a Tuesday that we can.
There's a
I know,
tree.
it's pretty cute.
You wanna miss Halloween, you can. Next week.
so
right,
there are parties.
We'll figure something out.
All right. Any last thoughts? Thank you. Good session.